Cinemoddities, late night movies with Rob and Zack. This is a podcast about cinematic oddities where we discuss any media that is too bizarre, abnormal, or off-kilter for contemporary audiences. Occasionally these projects gel. Most times they crash hard into the realm of obscurity. Join us as we delve into the cult classic swamp. I'm Zack.
And I'm tech support. Before we get into our discussion today, a few announcements. First and foremost, Happy New Year. I think this is our first episode. We might be a week late on the official New Year, but Happy New Year to all those listeners out in Cinemoddities fandom. And of course, if you are a dedicated fan, you know that every year, Rob gathers all his music files and creates his top 50 songs. And since this is the first episode of our 2020 year, kicking it off, I wanted to let everybody know that on Spotify, you can now find Rob's top 50 of 2019. Zack is going to put that in the show notes for you to find, so some good music updates. And along the same lines with the music updates, I would be remiss if I did not mention, about 2 weeks ago, An Insperiority Complex released some new music. That'll be in the show notes as well, a new EP, 6 tracks available on Bandcamp. One of them is one of the songs, I should say, is inspired by Twin Peaks. So, Zack, give that a listen. Our audience, check it out. And I have to say, it's just music, no dancing, Zack. I hope that doesn't turn you off too much.
Rob, I am quite flaccid right now after hearing that. So, you might as well dump a cold bucket of water on me. It would have done the same exact thing.
We have to hire Zack as our choreographer when we go on tour. What do you think of that? Perfect.
So much inferiority dancing.
All right. So I figured we would just jump right into it by saying that we have a new series. Of course, a new month, a new series. And I believe we are calling this one Incomprehensible Blockbusters. Has the name changed since I last checked, Zack?
No, Rob, it hasn't.
All right. So we are looking at, of course, blockbuster films that are in some way, shape, or form incomprehensible. And we are starting with none other than Chocolate Horizon, a.k.a. Butterscotch Vista, a.k.a. Lemon Firmament, a.k.a. Mint Empyrean, a.k.a. Toffee Panorama, a.k.a. Vanilla Sky.
Oh, so, yeah, folks. Oh, yeah.
I had never seen this movie prior to this podcast, this recording. I remember when we were thinking of incomprehensible blockbusters, this is something that I think has been in the spreadsheet for a while. We've had this idea for a series. And Zack and I were trying to think of things that would fit in. And I remember once, maybe a month ago or so, at the time of this recording, Zack said, "Oh, what about Vanilla Sky?" And I was like, I heard of it. I know Tom Cruise is in it. That's about it. I guess if that you think that fits, that'll fit. And I believe I said to you, Zack, I remembered a trailer for this or something like that. I was misremembering the movie. I haven't been able to find which movie I was thinking of, but it was definitely not Vanilla Sky. So I guess I'll throw it over to you then for one, the incomprehensible part, I don't think needs much explanation as we'll get into the concept and the story of this movie. But any special reason we're kicking off with this one?
Well, I was thinking for a while when I was first kind of kicking around the incomprehensible blockbuster series. I think Rob can tell everybody later on that I was kind of having a hard time thinking of movies for this because I'm not sure if we want to tip our hands too early though, but the final episode of this month is going to be our 100th episode ever.
Ah, yes. Very special episode and very special discussion.
Yes, a film that had its 1 year anniversary roughly a couple of days within us recording this.
Nice.
Yeah, 1 year. Did I say 100th or 1 year anniversary?
I thought I heard 1 year, but
it feels like 100 years ago.
I do know last week in our Tomorrowland episode, I repeatedly referred to the year that we were closing out as 2018. So we're in a time vortex. 100 years, 1 year, 2018. Who knows at this point?
Much like Vanilla Sky, we don't know what year we're in. Something happened.
Yes.
We met a beautiful woman who can barely speak English. We went into like cryogenic freeze with Benny the dog. We woke up and all we keep saying is, Hester! Shah!
Oh, yes.
Tip of the hand, folks. Tip of the hand. But no, so like when I was kind of pitching this, I kept asking Rob, I'm like, Rob, I need incomprehensible blockbusters. I'm like, we need to think. And there was a bunch of things. Like at one point we had Battlefield Earth on the list.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was like, oh, we can also do like the Tom Cruise Mummy movie because it doesn't make a lot of sense. And at one point, Tomorrowland was, I think we mentioned it last week, was on the incomprehensible blockbusters. And Tomorrowland is a incomprehensible blockbuster.
Yep.
But that had to be saved for Disney December Plus. And so I was thinking about it because I think at one point I did put the Tom Cruise Mummy in there. And I was like, I'm like, that's kind of a Monstober. And I was thinking, and I realized, oh, wait, Tom Cruise does have an incomprehensible blockbuster, Vanilla Sky. And on top of that, it's probably the only example on this list in that it was a genuine box office success. Like there's no little asterisk next to it. There's no little annotation that says like, oh, well, it didn't make as much money as the first one. So it was kind of riding off the coattails of the previous film, like our next week's film's going to be. So no, I kind of felt like in a weird way that this is a perfect fodder for Cinemoddities. And what better way to start the beginning of not just a new year, but a new decade than with Vanilla Sky, or as the tagline describes it, love, hate, dreams, life, work, play, friends, friendship, sex.
With no spaces, right?
No, it is love, hate, dreams, life, work, play, friendship, sex.
That's going to be this year's Webster's Word of the Year, right?
Yes. And I have to ask you, Rob, based on that tagline, how well does that describe the movie?
It describes
a bunch of words just smushed together. Does that describe Vanilla Sky well to you?
Yeah, I guess kind of. It definitely has a smushed together type of feel to it, I would say.
Oh yeah, I can't argue with that.
So this is, I was interested, once Zack told me we picked Vanilla Sky and I started to look into it, I had definitely heard of it, as I mentioned. When I did some research before I watched it, I was surprised to see that it was Cameron Crowe, especially Cameron Crowe coming off of, if I remember correctly, Almost Famous, right?
Yep.
That's a big switch in movies after I've watched this movie.
Yep. It's a left turn. It is a left turn for him.
Tonal whiplash. The first 40 minutes of this, though, I think might just fall right in what I kind of expect from Cameron Crowe, and then it just kind of goes off the rails.
Yeah, it's a strange movie. It's after, because when I suggested this, I hadn't watched it in a while. I actually bought this movie while I was in college because I still have the receipt from like the first semester of freshman year. Yeah, I bought it. Funny enough, I bought it December 2nd, 2010. So 9 years ago.
Oh, wow. You think you're going to return it? You still got that receipt?
Rob, FYE's not around anymore.
Oh, it was FYE. Okay.
It's FYE.
You missed your window.
It's a used copy. Somebody wrote something on DVD in Sharpie now that I'm looking at it.
Is it legible?
I don't know. I think it says...
Does it say I want to wake up?
No, hold on a second. I got to zoom in a little bit. It's going to take a little bit of time. Okay,
Does
folks,
it say
I got to...
swallowed your tongue?
God damn it, don't steal my joke.
Yeah.
You stole my
year off right.
Oh, can we say right now that the fact that that's not AFI's top quote of all time in cinema is a travesty?
I wholeheartedly agree. I'm sure we're going to get into the finer details of this movie, but I really was not enjoying watching this movie until Cameron Diaz started ranting in the car. That's when the whole movie turned around for me.
Oh, it's she gives, you know what the weird part of that, again, yes, we'll get into specifics. We kind of have to lay the plot of this out for the audience. This is not a deep end film. Well, it is, but not in the way we have to talk about it. Is that like you watch that like monologue she has while driving the car? It's horribly corny, but she sells it so well. She sells it so convincingly. You're like, wow, this is atrocious dialogue. Yet she's selling it. I'm like, bravo, Cameron Diaz, because up until this point, she was more or less kind of known as a sex symbol.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of like the extent of Cameron Diaz. And it's like, wow, it's like, bravo, you kind of get why she took this role, because it's more or less like she's in the movie, but it's more for the most part, it's a one sequence role, and then she kind of disappears.
Yeah, and I actually wanted to point that out because in my notes, there's one note where I just wrote Cameron Diaz sucks in this movie. Like before her monologue, I was like, God, this is terrible. Like she's this annoying, like ditzy character, and she's all got like the girly affect, and it was just grating on me. And then my immediate next note is, okay, once Cameron Diaz goes crazy in the car, I dig it. It was like a complete switch. It just flipped that switch for me. Everything was turned on, and I was just so into the movie from there on out.
Yeah, it's that's a show. Like, I remember, because I really don't have a lot of personal context for this movie. Because I remember when it came out, like in this, like December of 2001, it was really like that was right like on the, I don't want to say precipice, but kind of like when I really started getting into movies. And I remember when it came out, it was one of those like, well, back in the day, or maybe it was one of the last few examples. Now that I think about it, when all you need to do was sell a movie, was just have the main actor's face on the poster and the title, and that's it.
I saw that and I was like, whoa, that's all we got. Like, I remember hearing stories about how, what was it? The first Batman, it was just the poster was just the Batman symbol and like Keaton and Nicholson. And like, that was a huge deal in movie poster world. And then this is just like, oh, here's Tom Cruise's face. And, we had a fan in the background making his hair look a little wispy, and that did the trick, I guess.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's kind of shocking now in retrospect to think that you could just market something that way.
Definitely.
And part two is that this was a genuine success. It made, back in 2001, it made $100 million.
Wow. Today, was that domestic?
Yeah, it made it made $200 million worldwide in 2001. Back when worldwide box office wasn't really a thing outside of like Titanic.
Sure.
And like your kind of like your super duper blockbusters. This was a success in pretty much every sense of the word. And it's kind of amazing that it was a success back then. And oddly enough, nobody talks about this movie anymore.
Yeah, that's something I found surprising, because I remember talking to a few people and I was like, oh, I got to watch Vanilla Sky for the podcast. And they were like, oh, I've never heard of that. And I'm like, Tom Cruise is in it. And like, no one really had anything to say about it. And I, with Tom Cruise, at least, I expected someone to know it, because he's a movie star, but no one I encountered had really anything to say. So I really did go into this completely cold.
It's also a weird movie in that, like, there's so many, like, celebrities in it.
Oh,
like, there's so many recognizable faces. Again, you have, obviously, Tom Cruise, Cameron Diaz, Penelope Cruz, Kurt Russell, Jason Lee, Noah Taylor, Tilda Swinton, Michael Shannon. You have so many weird-ass cameos. Steven Spielberg, Conan O'Brien, Johnny Galecki. It's just like, how is this movie not like resonate?
Yeah.
Like, I get it's a weird movie.
Hologram Johnny or Force Ghost Johnny Coltrane.
Yes, that's another weird thing in this movie. That happened. I'm like, oh yeah, this is like back when Hollywood was kind of like high on the idea of like all this weird technology. Like in the same, I guess it's the same year as AI, artificial intelligence. Where like, I guess technology was finally starting to like seep into the business. They're like, oh wow, look what the future holds for us. Then you fast forward 20 years and the future technology is just 800 Avengers films.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, this is one of those movies where it's just, there's so much going on, like on pretty much every level. And it really is going to be a fascinating discussion because there's just so many different ways we can take this. Obviously, the lowest of the low-hanging fruit being the amazing Cameron Diaz monologue, which hopefully will become another kind of like a merman level quote in the Cinemoddities lore.
Yeah.
Because remember, Rob, you can have sex with somebody not just once or twice, heck, even 3 times. But if you make love to them 4 times, your body makes a commitment.
It means something. Zach, do you know that when you podcast with somebody, your body makes a promise whether you acknowledge it or not?
It's insane. Like, it's, again, it's so weird because like like on paper you read it and it's just like you can't help but laugh at it.
Oh yeah.
But it's sold so convincingly and I can't wrap my mind around that.
There's one thing that bothers me. Why did you tell Brian that I was your fuck buddy?
I didn't tell him that. I didn't say that.
Hey, when did you stop caring, David?
Caring about what?
About the consequences of the promises that you've made.
Promises?
Yeah, the promises.
I thought... Get the fuck. What are you talking about?
Do you understand how hard it is to pretend to be your buddy? David, I love you. I fucking love you. I fucking love you! Fuck!
Hey. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Don't do this.
You fucked me 4 times the other night, David. You've been inside me.
Julie.
I swallowed your cum. That means something.
Slow down.
4 times. It means something, David. 4 times.
Stop the car.
It's 24 hours a day. I live with this aching possibility that you might call me to do something.
Yeah, let's go to your house and we'll talk this out. I want to see where you live. Let's just slow down. I want you to stop the car, Julie. I want you to stop the car!
Don't you know that when you sleep with someone, your body makes a promise whether you do or not? Tell me something, David. I mean, do you believe in God?
What are you doing? Okay, I love you. I love you.
Yeah, I have to agree completely. And I guess we also should say that's like 40 minutes into the movie, right?
And you have all the other weird stuff of Tom Cruise wearing a weird like gelatin mask. You've got deformed Tom Cruise. You got Tom Cruise in the gutter. You got Tom Cruise suffocating Cameron Diaz with a pillow.
Yeah,
it's like
when he
goes,
ties her up, then he's like, "I'm gonna tie this 4 times so it means something." And I'm at that point. We'll get into it because my brain was going like I was trying to figure out what the hell was happening in this movie. And then that line happens when Penelope Cruz and Cameron Diaz are switching places and Tom Cruise is like going back and referencing lines early in the movie. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, how self-aware is this movie?
That's the weird thing. So this movie is also like oddly ahead of its time, which makes its success during its initial release so baffling.
Yeah, especially once I got through the whole thing and the kind of, I guess, the reveal in air quotes at the end, if you want to interpret it that way, it's kind of like, really? This resonated with people enough to make that much money? That's crazy to me.
That's the odd thing though. Is that, like, I remember like the critics didn't like this. I think audiences were kind of just like meh about it.
Okay.
But like it may had an opening weekend of like $25 million and it got to 100 million. So it had staying power.
Wow.
Like I've got to look at, okay, now the well, technically both. Box Office Mojo is such a mess. I can't really like look at like box office statistics the same way I used to.
Mm-hmm.
But like I'm trying to think of what came out like that holiday season. If anybody knows how to use Box Office Mojo, please comment down below. We'll send you a business card.
It'll only be slightly damaged.
Only slightly. Okay, this is what came out opening weekend for Vanilla Sky, which was December 14th through the 16th. Vanilla Sky, the second weekend of Ocean's 11.
Oh, wow.
Not another teen movie. Remember everybody's favorite film. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Jeez. I saw that back in the day.
Of course you did, Rob. Little did you know at the time the impact that would have on your life.
Yep.
And the fifth movie was Behind Enemy Lines, the weird like drama with Owen Wilson and Gene Hackman.
Wow.
Remember that
That's crazy.
movie? Remember that movie? Owen Wilson doing a dramatic role. Oh, wow. Gene Hackman, I'm stuck behind enemy lines. Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm trying to see what's next week. Okay, Lord of the Rings comes out. Ocean's 11's number 2 again. Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius.
Hey, good old Steve Odekirk.
Yes, Vanilla Sky. We're still waiting, folks, for the thighs of Sky Skipper. We're still waiting. Get on it, Steve Odekirk. We know you listen to us.
My disappointment was immeasurable. It still is immeasurable.
And number 5 is How High.
Is that the Method Man and Redman one?
Rob,
where they smoke
the
smoke? They smoke the dead person. I think that's that one.
Rob, do you need to ask? A movie called How High. But yeah, no, Vanilla Sky, like it had competition. Think about that. Like Lord of the Rings, Ocean's 11.
Mm-hmm.
Like we still talk about those movies.
Definitely.
Yeah, and then like after that, the following weekend after that, you have Ali with Will Smith. And then after that, it kind of just, weirdly enough, it kind of hovered in the top 10. But it never really kind of like went any higher. Just kind of hovered there. It made money, but just not a ton of money.
That's surprising. Do you really think the staying power was that the Tom Cruise energy and I guess Cameron Crowe, because coming off of his run of huge successes?
It had to be because I guess it was just the idea. Also, it's like Tom Cruise. They probably sold. I hadn't looked at the trailers for this, but they probably sold it as like a romantic comedy, not a romantic comedy, but kind of like a Jerry Maguire, like a dramedy.
Yeah.
It probably was good date night fodder. Then you like show up and you see Tom Cruise jumping off a building while he's disfigured. So I don't know. Like it made money. Like looking at like all the like it made more money than Ali. Even that same time too, you have the Royal Tenenbaums. It made more money. It made more money than that. Obviously, it didn't make more money than Ocean's 11, but yeah, really the only things that season that kind of outgrossed it were Lord of the Rings, Ocean's 11, and A Beautiful Mind. And at that point, Harry Potter had been out for almost like 2 months, so it's not really fair. But yeah, really, like I guess they tried to make this an Oscar play, and it just didn't work. I guess it's like it was a failed Oscar play that was able to save face by making money.
Okay. The best way to save face, I guess, in the industry.
Yeah, but like looking at the box office for that like holiday season, that like it was like the 4th highest grossing film of that December after Lord of the Rings, Beautiful Mind, and Ocean's 11.
God damn. That's crazy to me because, you know, watching it now and thinking about, you know, the premise of this movie and the sci-fi aspects to it, I don't think this would do very well today. I think people would kind of see this as watered down almost. They want something more in your face and more explicit, you know, like the time travel of Endgame or something like that.
Yeah, I know. It was also a different world. Like, look what was popular. You had Ocean's 11. You had.
True.
Can you imagine a movie like A Beautiful Mind making $180 million today?
Oh no,
I could not see that happening.
Only if it was an origin story to a new superhero.
Yeah. Yuck. But yeah, no. This is a weird one. This is really it's an anomaly in that sense. Where I guess again, it was just like think about 2001. This is part of that kind of weird phase of like, as Rob knows, we're going to get to in the next a year from now, pre 9/11 like movie cinema. But this was right after that. Like you think about it, you have 9/11 happens, and you have all this like content that was designed for a completely different world than it was intended for.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have this like American culture that kind of doesn't know what to do with itself right now. And you release something like this. So you have, again, your Lord of the Rings, Ocean's 11, A Beautiful Mind, and you throw this in there. And I guess maybe it was just people wanting to go back to a simpler time, to like a Jerry Maguire, like Tom Cruise is America's golden boy. And he is Maverick, because in a couple of months we will be getting Top Gun 2, Maverick Strikes Again, or whatever it's called. I'll have to watch that preview a million times too in front of Star Wars.
Maverick Boogaloo.
Oh my God! Confessions of a Scientologist.
There we go.
But yeah, no, I guess that's what it was. The fact that like you have Tom Cruise's face on the poster, and like Penelope Cruz was like this hot and like starting. I don't mean hot like in a physical sense, but she was just kind of this like new thing to Hollywood because she was a foreign actress before she kind of became Hollywoodized. That's what I can think of. Is that it really was kind of like.
I didn't think of that till you said it. But was there an angle of the you got Tom Cruise and Penelope Cruz?
Oh,
Cruz did they do that?
Oh, did you? Oh, okay.
No, I've never. I don't remember it at least from back in 2001.
Okay. After this, Rob has to hold the gun to my head because we have to explain what this movie's about, or at least try to explain what this movie's about.
Okay.
Okay. In preparation for this episode, I went back and listened to the Blank Check episode they did on Vanilla Sky because they did the entire series on Cameron Crowe.
Okay.
They did all Crowe. And I remember this at the time, but I forgot it before listening to their episode, and even for this discussion, it just jogged my memory, was that this movie came out like right after Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise were getting divorced.
Oh.
And Tom Cruise apparently was having, I don't want to say an affair, but not an affair like while he was married, but like after he broke up with Nicole Kidman, he was with Penelope Cruz, and the big like tabloid headline thing was like Cruise and Cruise together.
Oh. Okay.
And that was like an unofficial marketing angle while releasing this film. That was like the tabloid, like Entertainment Tonight marketing of this. Cruise together.
And because you had the names and they were in some type of relationship. Makes sense.
Yeah, I remember. I can vaguely remember this because I was only like 9 years old at the time. But Griffin says on the episode, he's like when Tom Cruise was married to Nicole Kidman, he was kind of like America's golden boy. He's like finally settling down. And then when he starts like hooking up with Penelope Cruz, it's like all we care about is hot, rough, steamy sex. And I kind of remember that being like the tabloid thing at the time, that like, oh, it was a very steamy affair. Like that was the big thing going into this. And I think maybe that's what it was too. There was like a sex appeal aspect to it. Like Tom Cruise with this like hot foreign babe. Because at that point, nobody knew who Penelope Cruz was. Like I was even reading for this, that a lot of her dialogue, she had to learn phonetically.
Really?
Yes.
That's insane.
Imagine some of this dialogue having no idea what it means, but just like reading it because somebody's like phonetically like reciting it to you.
Yeah, that's crazy. I guess that makes up that answers some of my questions about some of her performance in this movie.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair to judge her entirely on this.
Okay. She wasn't terrible. I think it was just there were bits and pieces I picked up on where I was like, that's not how you say those words.
Well, she's very Pixie-esque in this. Like she's almost like there's no way someone like that could exist. And I get that. That's the point of this movie. She is supposed to be like this almost like quasi like angelic figure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she's again, Pixie being the right word, I think, more than anything else.
Okay, interesting. All right, yeah, so we got Cruise and Cruise with the sex appeal. You think that could ever happen again? I've heard some people online call for it, but a movie with Tom Cruise and Terry Crews. Okay, I think the picture I've seen is someone wants a movie with Tom Cruise and Terry Crews, and they're on a cruise. That's the premise I've heard. Like they want to get the word cruise in as much as possible.
I like to imagine there's got to be a fake movie poster out there, and it says Cruise, and it's a picture of like Terry Crews doing the thing with Tom Cruise, like Titanic on the bow of the ship.
Oh,
Cruise, and they're on like a Royal Caribbean or like what's it like? Oh God, what's the other one? Like Carnival cruise ship, and they're doing that.
a sagging birthday cake.
There you go, sagging birthday cake. We haven't heard that in a while. Now that's
the king of the cruise.
Sagging birthday cake. All right, folks, if you have your Cinemoddities nostalgia bingo card in front of you, you can now check off that square.
We're pulling it all up in the new year. Here we go.
Titanic definitely looked sick. It looked like a sagging birthday cake to survivors in the lifeboats.
This ham is delicious.
Nice.
Let's make all the references from Titanic Sinking the Mist in one foul swoop.
Right on.
All right, Rob, considering that you're much more concise and direct than I am, do you want to explain to our audience what the hell this movie's about?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a shot. Tom Cruise is living the dream. He is a media mogul. I think he runs a magazine company. Yes, the magazine's called Rise.
He runs 3 magazines, Rob.
Oh, okay. So he's a magazine mogul, I guess, type of thing. He inherited it all from his father, and his life seems to be going great. He's banging Cameron Diaz. Jason Lee's jealous of him. He's having all these parties. He's great friends with Steven Spielberg, like actually Steven Spielberg, not Steven Spielberg playing somebody else. And then he meets the girl of his dreams, Penelope Cruz. He really has a good time with her, but then Cameron Diaz gets jealous, I think. I guess that's one way to put it.
Something like that.
Drives them both off of a bridge, right into a brick wall. This horribly disfigures his face, and we kind of get this weird non-linear telling of how Tom Cruise murdered possibly Penelope Cruz, possibly Cameron Diaz, if they are different people or the same people. And it all kind of coalesces into this very, very watered down kind of David Lynch Mulholland Drive idea of Capgras syndrome or imposters and doppelgangers. And then eventually it turns out that Tom Cruise, I guess this is something we'll have to talk about, the movie tells us, Noah Taylor tells us, that Tom Cruise has been dead for 150 years and his brain was put into some form of lucid dream so he could continue to live out his fantasy, but something went wrong somewhere. Is that? I feel like I'm missing stuff, but at the same time,
there's some nuances in the film that you kind of skip, but that's fair. That's par for the course.
Yeah, and I think some of those minor details I want to talk about more because this movie definitely got me thinking at a certain point. But I think the thing to really highlight is the first half of the movie not even the first 90 minutes of this, 2-hour plus movie, there's really no notion that he's dead or in a lucid dream. That really only comes at the very end when Tilda Swinton pops out of nowhere, right?
Well, there's hints because we keep seeing the Benny the dog thing. They keep referencing the Benny the dog, like, oh, the dog was like frozen in the lake. And like we see the dog, and the dog's just kind of like staring into the void every time we look at him. And it's like, oh, like this happens, but something is lost in the process.
Yes, and I think that's where I was really intrigued at the start of this movie, because at the very beginning we get a great musical piece. We get some Radiohead. My exact note is actually, who doesn't love some Radiohead to start a movie? Everything in its Right Place. That's a great song.
Yesterday I woke up soaking.
Tom Cruise goes driving, and Times Square is just empty. Mm-hmm. And he gets out of his car, and he's running around, and Times Square is completely void of any other people, but all the buildings are still lit up. And very prominently, you can clearly observe an old episode of The Twilight Zone playing. And it's one of my favorite episodes, called Shadow Play. And this really perked my ears up, because I'm watching this, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? Why is Tom Cruise just running around in the middle of Times Square? And I see Shadow Play. And if you're unfamiliar with Shadow Play of Twilight Zone, that's the episode where a man is on death row and he's trying to convince everybody else that they are in his dream. And I'm like, that's a very interesting episode to pick for this. So I had the twinge of something weird going on, and then it goes right into Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz being in a relationship. Tom Cruise, everything is going right for him, and it turns into lovey-dovey, corny, sappy nonsense for the next 40 minutes. So there was something there at the beginning that hooked me, but I really kind of fell off with it until that Cameron Diaz monologue. The other thing I have to say is at the beginning, Tom Cruise's car has the registration sticker of February 30th, and that caught my eye because, of course, that date does not exist. Unfortunately, I looked it up later, and apparently that was an accident. I don't know how you make that mistake. That's like... You like January 56th, it's like, that's just a terrible mistake to make. But I think that's what Zack was saying. There's all these little hints that something weirder is going on, whether they be prominent like Benny the dog, or a little more subtle like the Twilight Zone, or the car registration sticker and things like that. And that's where my ears start to perk up, is like, what is this? There's something else going on. And I was hoping that it would get out of the, oh, I love you, Tom Cruise. I love you, Penelope Cruz. You're the best. You're the best. I can't talk to anybody like I talk to you. And it did, thankfully.
Well, that's the weird thing about this movie is that, like, even in the blank check discussion, they talk about like how there's zero chemistry between Penelope Cruz and Tom Cruise. And I didn't believe that. Like, when I watched it, because I watched the movie first, then listened to their discussion, mm-hmm. I bought the romance. Like, I guess maybe I've always liked Tom Cruise as an actor. I don't think I have a favorite Tom Cruise performance. He's just always been like good actor man. That's the weird thing about Tom Cruise is like I've never been able to really ever like see him blending into a role. He's always just Tom Cruise because he is this like larger than life persona.
Fair, yeah. But I would say you're right. Even with Les Grossman in Tropic Thunder, it's like you know that's just Tom Cruise doing a shtick. It's funny, it's fantastic, but you're never like, oh, this. You're just always like, this is Tom Cruise.
Sure. And I think that's maybe something that happens more like in his 90s roles. I think pretty much everything after, I think, Cocktails, when he starts to become this like larger than life persona. Mm-hmm. Because even like some things like Top Gun and Risky Business, he's still young enough there where you can still kind of buy him being someone other than Tom Cruise. But like I like the romance. Like Rob said, the first 40 minutes is which just I love you, or I love you so much, but I can't say it, or all these things. I like that. I like the whole thing where at the party and Jason Lee he keeps trying to skim women off of Jason Lee.
Yeah.
And like Jason Lee brings her to the party and she has kind of like no idea like why she's there. Penelope Cruz, and she's wearing this giant coat, which I love. They bring attention to over and over again. It's this giant, just like uncharacteristically New York jacket for people who live like in Midtown. And again, that sort of thing I like. I like the schmaltz. it's kind of like you don't get that in movies anymore because I guess they assume everybody is too cynical in today's like era to appreciate that level of just schmaltz. And I think that's something that Cameron Crowe, only someone like him can bring, because there was a series of oh god, I don't know what you would call it. Like it's kind of like what they used to do back like 15 plus years ago, like AFI used to do with their top list. CNN did something with it called like the movies, and they analyzed like every decade of movies. They brought like celebrities in and other high profile people, filmmakers, and one of them was Cameron Crowe. And a lot of the stuff with him, because again, I don't think Cameron Crowe's had a hit movie in like, I think at least 10 years. And like you hear him talk about like what sort of things like influenced him. And a lot of what really clicked was like John Hughes stuff. Like that really kind of just like over the top, but not in a bad way, like just sentimentality. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something interesting where you have like someone like Cameron Crowe that knows how that sort of like can do that sort of like genuine schmaltz. Whether you like it or not, it's an entire separate issue.
Yeah. But
that sort of just like convincing romance, or that kind of like girl next door American Pie romance. Because like, I would imagine even like early 2000s, the idea of two New Yorkers like hooking up together would just be like, okay, how fast can we get each other's clothes off? Especially if you're like real life Tom Cruise, like magazine executives. And yet I don't know about you, but I believe the fact that like, okay, Tom Cruise is smitten by this woman.
Oh yeah, I bought the romance completely. And I think that's why I didn't like it, because I bought it, you know? It was so sentimental. I was like, okay, come on, I get it. And they just kept going. I'm thinking specifically of the scene where they're drawing each other, and she draws the caricature, and then he draws the actual good picture. And it's like, I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, please make it stop, you know? But I feel that way because I bought it. If I didn't buy it, I'd just be like, okay, whatever, blah, 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 and I'd be able to move on. But you know, that really sappy stuff, I felt it, and that just doesn't sit with me, you know, because Zack knows I have a heart of ice.
Yes, he is a sociopathic robot, folks. He is. I can confirm that. I've seen his internal matrix. But I think that like that first 40 minutes, which is I would imagine a lot of people have problems with. But I think without that, the rest of like that's kind of the bedrock that the rest of the movie kind of is built upon. Because if you don't have that like deep infatuation that he has with Penelope Cruz, everything else from the movie just disappears and it dissipates.
Absolutely. I think, you know, while I was watching it, I didn't like it. But then once you get to the end and you have tech support explaining how there was some type of glitch in Tom Cruise's lucid dream or his dream state after death, then it makes sense. It makes sense that everything with him and Penelope Cruz was so sappy and lovey-dovey because that's what he would want. That's his perfect ideal life. And then it starts to go wrong. And so it makes sense once you get that kind of reveal at the end.
Okay, one thing I want to ask before I forget about it. What'd you, and not to skip ahead too far, but what'd you think of the idea of them essentially like explaining the last 2 hours and the last 5 minutes of the movie? Do you feel that's a cop-out, or do you think that's necessary?
I don't know if I'd say it's necessary, but I didn't really have a problem with it. I thought it was interesting because I liked having some type of solution at the end. And, you know, we've said it on here that I usually like things that are left more open-ended where you can kind of get the sense of, oh, what happened? And it's open to interpretation. But I felt that it tied up everything in this film rather nicely. So I was really okay with it. And then especially the very ending with Tom Cruise's choice, I guess, and Kurt Russell breaking down and, you know, he's like, I'm real. I think that's the director's cut or the alternate ending, though. I thought that fit perfectly. I think that it was earned, I guess, is a good way to say it.
All right, because like I guess I haven't watched prior to watching it for this discussion. I had not watched it since 2010. Yet as I was rewatching it, I remembered it kind of came to me every single time. Like, okay, now this will happen, and then this person will turn that corner, and I think I appreciated the movie for a lot of that because I'm like, okay, I know where this is going, but watching this as a one-off, like watching this like fresh, I don't know. Like, I don't know how normies would like how this would play to normies.
Yeah, that I'm not sure because, you know, once the movie really got going and it kind of, you know, Penelope Cruz and Cameron Diaz started switching places and things were weird. Like Tom Cruise was deformed, wasn't deformed. That's when I really got into it and my brain started going like, with what is happening? You know, what is this movie about? And I'm glad that the movie kind of gave some sense of it, because I couldn't really reach a good answer at the end for me. Not at the end, but throughout. Because when people were switching places, the two women, I was like, okay, is this a big like Capgras syndrome? Like Tom Cruise thinks people aren't the people they actually are because he has some mental defect as a result of his injury. And I got the sense of this being somewhat of a religious tale as well, especially with him kind of his rebirth when he gets his face put back on correctly. And, you know, his magazine being called Rise, I got some Jesus kind of connotations there. My brain was going in so many places. I liked that they kind of threw a thread out at the very end to not, you know, say, oh, I was wrong and this is what it is, but to give some more specific closure.
Sure, okay, I can get behind that.
You're right, though. The normies, I think, would kind of tune out where they, from the car crash up to the tech support part, where things are just going crazy, you know, like the good vibration scenes and stuff in the LE offices and Tilda Swinton looking right at the camera and everything like that. I would imagine a lot of people would check out. And then when they do get an answer, be like, I don't care anymore, or that wasn't satisfying.
But that's the thing, though. Is like this comes out the same like time span, I think, as Mulholland Drive, and obviously Mulholland Drive did not get the a fraction of the marketing push that this did. But this feels like I maybe this is the reason why this film did as well as it did, was that like it does feel like a baby's first David Lynch, or a baby's first like experimental film. And because it is weird, it's different. So I guess maybe if you were like a young couple in like 2001 and you didn't want to sit through like Russell Crowe, like suffering through like hallucinations and like beating up Jennifer Connelly, it's like, oh, like, okay, this is something that's different. This is edgier, but it still has that like sex appeal aspect to it. Like, it's not just like your normal romantic comedy. It's not another teen movie. That's the only thing, though, is that maybe that edge is what helped it at the time.
Yeah, a little more. It wasn't like you said. It's baby's first type of, you know, branching out into this thing. It didn't go full force, so it wouldn't lose a lot of that audience. But it had just enough to make it, you know, weird.
Yeah, it made it stand out, but enough that like it's one of those movies that probably a lot of people walked out of it being like, okay, but I'm not going to recommend it. Like, in the sense of like, I'm not going to tell anybody you have to see this. It's like, I didn't dislike it, but it's there.
Yeah, I
those movies that just kind of like, okay, that was fine. Like, I don't feel gypped, but at the same time, though, I'm not going to be like, guys, you got to check this out.
Yeah. I think that's probably what it came down to. Some version of that.
Because, like, at the same time, though, it is trying to be, like, that experimental, like, aha, we've had a plan. Like, there's a deeper meaning to all this. But even at the end, when Noah Taylor's explaining, like, everything that's been going on, and it's like, oh, like, you had, like, an inception point of when, like, the lucid dream began. So it, like, seamlessly, like, weave into your memories. And it's like, oh, when was that, like, point? It's like when you, like, oh, God, passed out in the gutter, and you woke up and she was there.
Yeah,
except
exactly.
Except the problem, though, is that like in the narrative of the film, there's nothing at that moment to signal to the audience when we rewatch it that there is some break there. Like, there should be like, that's where you should have like a good vibrations moment. That's where you should have like a dream sequence. There should be some level, maybe not as blatant as good vibrations, but there should be some level of like, I'm not sure, Rob, maybe you remember and I don't, but going from when he goes chasing Jason Lee and Penelope Cruz because he thinks they're hooking up like behind his back. He passes out like in the gutter with his like gelatin mask. And then like the very next scene is her like nudging him like, come on, wake up. And there's really no, yes, at that point, like we get this really beautiful, like, oh God, panoramic sky. I get it. Like, kind of like the color palette of the film changes a lot from that moment.
Yeah, but again, that's it, is the sky in that scene, the very pastel, bright, vibrant colors. But that's it. You're right. There should be something a little more.
A little bit more definitive.
Yeah.
Considering this is a mainstream film. Like, no, if we're watching David Lynch's Vanilla Sky, I don't expect that. But when it comes to like mass appeal entertainment, there should be something a little bit more. Like, even if you want to just be really blatant about it, have a couple of little just like glitches or something like that to show like something happening where like, or even I forget the sky. There should be something like, I don't know, maybe there's I don't know. You have like an animal walk by, like I don't know, something a little bit more
something
bizarre.
like a flash of Brad Pitt in Fight Club before Tyler Durden shows up and all that stuff. Something that you can see, you can register, and then it's like you kind of think about it and it sticks in your brain rather than just the sky is a different color.
Exactly, because because again, having her show up like after she kind of blew him off that night because of how like disfigured he is. That's like, oh, you can believe that. That seems like something that character would do.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, again, you need that differentiation you need something really, I don't want to say bizarre, but something uncanny to happen to be like, oh, when you rewatch it, it's kind of like when you go back and watch any movie that has a twist at the end. You need all these little signs that are peppered in. And I don't know if the sky is enough of a indicator to a date night crowd.
I would agree completely. And, I got the sense, I think it's a few scenes after that, where he's walking through the streets with Penelope Cruz and you can see all the cars that are parked on the street are just from the 50s and 60s. Like there's an old VW bus, there's old Fords. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, what are all these old cars doing here? The movie started with a hologram Johnny Coltrane. Like this is anachronistic almost. And something more like that, like you said, with the animal or something along those lines. Definitely.
But that's the thing.
The sky being a different color is just, that could be anything,
But no, I think you have a point there because like the cars thing, like that's, again, it's subtle. And I have no problem with that though. But like you said, you have the movie begin with the hologram and it's like, oh, that didn't exist in 2001 on a commercial level.
Yeah.
So like you're going to have weird things like that. You really kind of have to, again, you're kind of, I guess that's maybe the point he's going for, because even at the very beginning of the movie, when he wakes up to the alarm saying like, wake up, it's Penelope Cruz's voice.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, yep.
So I know a lot of this, again, it's Baby's first David Lynch film. But so like, I don't know, like what's the whole, and that's why this is why this is more of an incomprehensible blockbuster, is that like how much of this is supposed to be more abstract and interpreted literally.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of, something I've thought about and found in my research is that, yes, we do get Noah Taylor's tech support very explicitly explaining what Tom Cruise has been going through. But it seems like that, according to Cameron Crowe and everybody else, that doesn't necessarily have to be the only interpretation. And there should be more to guide the audience to that. Because I think, like we said, if somebody just goes to see this, once you have someone in the movie explaining it to our main character, it almost becomes cut and dry. Like that's what it is.
Exactly. And that's why I have a hard time, like, again, like you said it perfectly. If the movie lays it out for you so simply, you can't argue with it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
That's the weird thing with this.
I think it needed more of a Total Recall feel. Like when we discussed Total Recall, there's no way you could go, there's arguments for, was he in the Total Recall machine or did this all actually happen? It could really be split either way. And here, if you just look at the movie, you say, this is what they told us in the movie. This is what happened. How can you argue against that? Where it's more ambiguous in movies like Total Recall.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, clearly he wants that, like, ambiguity, but he lays it out too perfectly. Like, we shouldn't have, like, yes, you should have Noah Taylor, but maybe instead of Noah Taylor, you should have, like, Kurt Russell doing it. Again, Kurt Russell's again, much like what happened in Total Recall, have him be there and be like, oh, like, I'm part of your memory. Well, who's this then? This is my, I don't know, lucid dream incarnation. He's here to guide you out of any problems, because that happens in the movie too. He's like, Tom Cruise, I can help you. Yeah. I can help you get out of this. Something like that. Even the lawyer, we have a Peter Pettigrew from Harry Potter is his lawyer. Yeah. Instead of Kurt Russell, Peter Pettigrew comes in. It's like, oh, like I'm here, buddy. The lucid dream people asked me to be like your representative because they know you would trust me as an authority in your life. Mm-hmm. Something like that. Like, I think the idea of Noah Taylor being this kind of just like out of nowhere, except for the coffee shop where Tom Cruise thinks he's hitting on him. Even that, because there's even some things too, like they mentioned, the fact that like the technology, like, oh, like Jason Lee has like the camera with the little DVD player, and it's like, I'm filming you two. Look at me, I'm filming you guys. Isn't technology crazy in 2001? And it's like, well, yeah, we've had camcorders that could hook up to like video sources in 2001. That's something that, even though it probably was expensive, it was commercially available.
Yeah,
it's not as bizarre or like out there as cryogenically freezing somebody or like a pretty realistic hologram at someone's Christmas party.
Exactly. And even I'm thinking of the TV that Tom Cruise has that retracts into his floor type of thing. That's doable, you know. It's not crazy though.
That's the weird thing though, because like at this point, a Tom Cruise Cameron Crowe movie would be seen as okay, product placement. We can put some product placement here, just make. And again, having 2001 era Tom Cruise publisher magnate having a flat screen TV coming out of his floor, it's foo-foo's like fancy. It's not anything that's like science fiction-y. Whoa, can you believe this exists in today's like day and age? And that's what I mean. The movie wants to be ambiguous, yet it's too cut and dry at the end to be ambiguous.
Exactly. And that, I think that is, you know, since I've after I watched it and kind of sat on it, that's the little disappointment I have, because I had so many thoughts as I was watching it that first time. That, like I said, I enjoyed that we had something with lucid dreams, which was nowhere in my train of thought while I was thinking about this movie before it was explicitly said. It is too much of a wrap up almost, and especially with the exact last shot of the movie with him opening his eye.
Yeah, I don't know, because even you have the stuff too with the whole thing. Like I'm trying to figure out what the the figurative, not the, oh my God, I can't think of the word for it. The metaphorical, like, resonance of the fact that his face is disfigured, and the fact that he has like the dual nature of him, where he has, at one point he goes to the nightclub and he has the mask on the back of his head, and he still has his like face exposed. And it's like, oh, this is really clever imagery.
Mm-hmm.
Yet what does it mean?
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of some of the things that I was thinking about as I was watching this movie, and really trying to see how they fit, like that. Like the beginning of the movie, when he's going into his office and like everybody he talks to is like, you have to pick the color palette for the cover. Like it's either black and white or red or something like that. And I'm like, okay, this is going to come up later, right? And it just seems to just fall off the face of the earth. But that's more of that duality, yeah.
That's what it is. There's a lot of like duality, dichotomy with him, where he has to choose between two things that he never can.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And whether it be, again, the magazine, the dream versus reality, Penelope Cruz versus Cameron Diaz, the mask versus the disfigured face. He always has two choices before him, and he's always indecisive about him. And maybe that's the message of the film, is that it's the finally being free of indecisiveness. Is that finally making a decision one way or the other?
Oh, okay. I could kind of see that.
I don't know. That's
the duality also makes me think of Jason Lee's whole thing, where he's always like, you got to take the good with the bad, the sweet with the not sweet, or the sweet the sour, and stuff like that. And you know, everybody's ordering Jack and Coke all the time just to hammer it into our heads that we have, okay, this is a little sweet, this is a little sour. But that doesn't really lead me to the choice aspect. That's just kind of like, you have to take both of them. But you can't take like both things with a magazine cover. You can't have a non-deformed face and a deformed face. So that's where I think it kind of clashes.
Yeah, and I think that's the weird thing, though. Is I guess it's the idea that, like, okay, I guess maybe it's also earnestness versus being, like, superficially perfect.
Okay.
Because you have the idea of, like, okay, he has this silicone mask face that the panel of doctors tell him that, like, okay, if you wear this, it'll heal your face, it won't upset people, blah, 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 and he rejects it. And probably the second best scene of the film is when he has the panel of doctors and he's screaming at them. But then you have things too where
that I
we'll
think
we'll have to insert
the one genuine laugh I gave this movie was when the one doctor's like, we could do something about your arm, and he's like, fuck my arm.
And beyond the cheek grafts, Dr. Pomerantz, are the pins fastened with any kind of aluminum which could ionize and cause that pressure in my head? Because I'm ready for another operation.
Yes, we are working on processes, but you're specifically not at the stage where we can experiment.
No. Experiment. Use me.
The headaches will go away.
No, these are more than headaches. These are like steel plates slicing through my every thought.
We're not cowboys. We can't just wing it.
Because I can't think straight most of the time.
We can increase your medication.
Oh, yes. Medication.
Woo! And there are things that we'll continue to investigate. However, there are so many others who've not had the aesthetic benefit of plastic surgery as you have.
This isn't about vanity, Dr. Pomerantz. This isn't about vanity. This is about functioning in the world. It's my job to be out there functioning. Now, I've got the money. I'll pay any amount. Just invent something. Just play jazz. You say you're the best face man in New York? Fucking prove it.
We could do something about your arm.
Fuck my arm!
Yeah, that's a fun sequence. That's a he's acting with a capital A and a bunch of quotation marks there. But we do have this thing too, again, just kind of like the beauty of somebody, but then you have like the superficial beauty, then you have like the under the surface, whether it be the caricatures, the fact that like after, well, this is during the lucid dream, but when he had sex with Penelope Cruz the first time and he finds the mole and he's like telling her like, oh, like she's like, I forget, she says something. There's also stuff about reincarnation in this too, that we really haven't delved into. And he's like, I want to come back as this mole right here. And that plays a big part later on in the film when he smothers Cameron Diaz to death.
Yep.
Again, this feels like another Vox Lux in that, like, I feel Cameron Crowe has a lot to say. He just doesn't know how to say it coherently.
Oh.
Or it's not as ambiguous enough, like something like David Lynch, where it's like, okay, David Lynch wants to tell us something, but you really have to think about it, and then it's clear as day. This feels like a message that's very muddled by it trying to be like 14 different messages wrapped in one.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, because like I said, you just mentioned the reincarnation stuff, and that's where I was getting the Jesus kind of not imagery, but Jesus story stuff with his rebirth type of thing and his getting his face back and stuff. And that's where I thought it was going to go, but it doesn't really go anywhere with that. You know, it all funnels itself into the lucid dream.
But it kind of does, because I think it's maybe less reincarnation, maybe it's more resurrection.
Sure.
Because the whole idea is that he's essentially in this cryogenic limbo and he comes back. Well, we have to assume he comes back to life based on what the ending is. And I think it's more, again, resurrection more than anything else. And again, that's the weird thing, because it's such a hokey thing in Hollywood to do, like in Jesus metaphors and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's the idea that even like kind of like it's the people that he inspired, and even the fact that there's a very, very blatant point made that after does anybody know? Does Jason Lee know that he's cryogenically frozen at the end?
That's a good question. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Because this is the point going to what you were saying with the Jesus the Jesus references, is that there's a very big point made that, oh, after you died, everybody loved you so much, Jason Lee had to have a memorial that lasted 3 days.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Jesus.
I'm glad you bring that up. Yeah, because that scene in particular, yes, the Jesus imagery. I do remember on my second viewing of this, when you see the little shot of the memorial in Tom Cruise's apartment that Jason Lee's holding, you can see Noah Taylor there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would take that to mean that, yes, or maybe Jason Lee didn't know then, but maybe that was something that Noah Taylor was like pitching to the estate at that memorial. I don't know, because I would imagine the movie doesn't get into it, but I would imagine there's a time frame, like you can't be dead for 6 years and then go into cryogenic freezing or anything like that.
Well, that's probably my favorite scene in the movies, like when Noah Taylor's explaining everything, we're having the flashbacks, and it's like, oh, Tom Cruise, you realize like after you passed out in the gutter, you woke up the following morning and no one was there, and you kind of limped back to your apartment, and that's like when your true spiral into like depression started. Because like we have again, it's my favorite scene in the movie that we have Tom Cruise like in a hotel bathroom, like swallowing a bottle full of pills. And it's lit so, like, I don't know what, like obviously they lit it with like a lighting like equipment, but it seems so real. Like you feel like, okay, they put Tom Cruise under a bunch of just like disfigured makeup, and they gave him a bottle of pills, and he's filmed in like a hotel bathroom somewhere. Because it feels very real. Like, okay, this guy realizes that everything is gone. His old life is never coming back. He turned off Penelope Cruz, and that's the weird thing too. Like the whole like, again, I guess my biggest problem with this movie is the Noah Taylor stuff, because it's like, okay, the last, like, again, the inception point being that like when he wakes up from the gutter, but then we're told we have to assume that Noah Taylor is a reliable narrator, right?
That's how I took it.
It's not inferred at all that he's lying to us or he's deceiving the audience or Tom Cruise.
Yeah, especially him being, tech support and him having to be called by Tom Cruise. I took that as truthful.
Yeah. But then we have the whole thing that like, okay, Penelope Cruz is so turned off by him earlier in the film when she literally runs away from him in the street.
Mm-hmm.
Like both her and Jason Lee sprint out of the scene.
Yeah.
And then, like, are we told how long the time is between that moment and when he eventually kills himself? Are we told if there any sort of time frame?
We
I don't
might
think
be,
so.
but I can't think. I think if it is, it's a very brief line. But the overarching idea is that he falls into this deep depression.
Yeah, the fact that nobody comes to save him after he wakes up in the gutter, and that's why he picks and that's why he picks it up as his inception point. But then the thing is, like, she comes to the memorial service, but Noah Taylor makes a very big point that she was only there for a few moments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she couldn't handle it or something, I think he says.
Well, the weird thing is, like, he says something like that, but it doesn't match up with how she's acting, because at that moment in the film, it's meant to show Tom Cruise that even though he was this kind of like, oh God, like womanizer, that kind of like nobody really liked in earnest. They only kind of kept him around because of just this, like, I don't know, like kind of like the energy, like very Tom Cruise-esque. I guess that's maybe Tom Cruise. He has this kind of just like energy to him. This like
he
kind
was
of like
rich, he was famous, he would throw these great parties. You know,
he was a cult of personality in a way. Like, people were drawn to him. But then, like, it's like she walks into his apartment and kind of just like walks in. And now I remember, like you said, it's, like, Noah Taylor says she was kind of like upset, but she walks in, sees Jason Lee, kind of like looks down, smiles, and then kind of like skips out of there. And it's like, oh, that doesn't really, like, what we're seeing doesn't line up with what we're being told.
Yeah, I agree for sure. And that's another reason where it's like, oh, is there something else going on here that we should be getting at, but it's not explicit enough, or it doesn't have enough strands for us to actually grab onto it.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it's kind of the idea that, like, Noah Taylor says, like, oh, like, she was like devastated when you died. And it's like, well, then why'd she run away from him in the gutter? Like, I get it, he was drunk, but it's like, why would she run away from him then? Because, like, that's the weird thing. Yeah. Though. It's like that the whole sequence at the nightclub, I have a hard time trying to figure out that was either a dream on his part or maybe like a hallucination, because he goes and visits her after the accident at the dance studio, and yes, she's put off by his appearance, but not enough to recoil from him.
Yeah, she agrees to do something, go out with him type of thing.
Yeah. And then we go to the nightclub, and that at the beginning of the nightclub sequence is really kind of very, oh God, kind of like murky in the sense like it's shot and it looks very different from everything else in the film.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And we see him like with the mask on, and the mask is like freaking everybody out. And then he like goes to like the other side of the bar. Or no, what happens is, I'm kind of remembering it now. He goes to them wearing the mask, and like it freaks them all out. Jason Lee's like, take the mask off.
Yeah, he goes hard on. He's like, take it off, man. And no, take it off, man. It's bothering me. Take it off.
Yeah, and then like he wakes up from a dream, right? Like he's like not a dream, but he kind of like he's hallucinating all this, or right?
Yeah, there's definitely some weird intercuts between when Jason Lee gets angry at him type of thing, and then there's something happens like an intercut, but then he goes to the other side of the bar and starts doing all the shots with the bartender.
Look at me, bitch.
Yeah.
Or no, say that to my face.
Say it to my face.
Yeah, then we have that, and he gets drunk with the what's he drinking? Patron?
Yeah.
If you have it. He's like, if you have it. And then he gets drunk, and he goes over, and he sees like Penelope Cruz dancing with somebody. And then, I don't know, then the whole thing happens as they're walking back from the nightclub. And he's like, again, in that whole time, he's wearing the mask on the back of his head, again, showing the duality, the dichotomy of just everything. And that he can't really pick either identity. He either wants to be disfigured Tom Cruise, or he wants to be superficially pleasant.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise. And I don't know, like that, there's just that nightclub sequence. I think I'm not saying this like in an edit sense. I mean, just kind of like analyzing the meaning of the film way. If you take the nightclub sequence out, I think the movie makes a lot more sense.
Okay.
Because that nightclub sequence just throws everything off. And by nightclub, I mean like everything from the nightclub up until like when Jason Lee and Penelope Cruz run away from him.
Sure.
Because it doesn't seem like after the accident, that minus the nightclub sequences, that Penelope Cruz is really that turned off by him. Like, yes, of course, in his lucid dream moments, she's like, I would have preferred like pretty Tom Cruise, because I who wouldn't? But whether it be at the dance studio or when she goes to this memorial service, she doesn't seem like hugely turned off by all this.
That's a really good point, because if we remove the nightclub scene and we just made it where Tom Cruise, disfigured Tom Cruise, goes out to a bar to drown his sorrows and then ends up, passed out in a gutter somewhere and wakes up and Penelope Cruz is just there, ready to accept him, that would make more sense, rather than that hard cut of, well, how does that real life stuff before that inception point jive with, his death? So, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying.
That's what I mean. That nightclub sequence just throws me off. It's like, okay, what are we getting at here? Because the whole point of them in the first, 40 minutes is when he goes back to her apartment, like you said, the caricatures, again, showing the duality, is that she draws him and it's a caricature, and he draws her and she's perfect. Again, the duality of it all. Mm-hmm. But it's the fact that she's more, because even after, what's he say a couple of times? He's a pleasure delayer. And as he walks out of her apartment, she starts to freak out, in a good way. And
doing the whole, once they're gone, get excited. You hang up the phone after you get accepted for a date, and then you do the little dance type of thing.
Yes, the happy dance. And that's the whole thing, though, is that their connection is supposed to be much deeper than the superficiality of it all. So it makes it so weird that maybe during the nightclub sequence, she's turned off by it. And she says that in the lucid dream, but we can't. That's not her, though, so we can't assume that.
Yeah.
There's no point in this where Noah Taylor says, okay, we have her memories, or we consult. Part of your thing is we consult with the people you love, and we create some sort of computer program that's an extension of them. So I don't know. That's the weird thing. Maybe she finds his personality ugly at that moment, that he falls into that depression, because she says that in the lucid dream parts. But we don't ever hear her say that.
Mm-hmm,
so I don't know. That's just, she seems to be enamored with him, and that's the big point of their moment in the apartment in the beginning, is that they have a deeper connection beyond the fact they're just two gorgeous looking people.
Yeah, they actually understand each other to some extent.
Yet their entire relationship dissolves because they're both turned off based on physical appearances. She can't handle the fact that he's disfigured, and he can't handle the fact that he's disfigured.
Yeah, that's it. Now that I think about it more, that whole nightclub scene, it doesn't really add much of anything. Even, we get him. Yeah, he gets drunk. He drowns his sorrows. We get the scene where someone screams at him, "Fix your fucking face."
Yes,
for a laugh, I guess. He's a little. I don't know. He's not even that much of a dick or anything to her. He's just kind of oh, I want to be the way we used to be. And she's like, no. And he goes, what's wrong? She goes, I'll tell you later, when we're different life, when we're both cats or something like that. And I'm just like, what? I'm like, okay, I guess.
That's the only thing you can say to somebody. If they ever say, I'll tell you in another life when we're cats, the only response you can say is, okay? It has to have that question mark at the end. Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, what's wrong? Is it me? Is it me?
I'll tell you later.
No, tell me now.
I'll tell you later.
Something's wrong. Please tell me now. Everything. Let's talk about it all right now. Let's just talk about everything. Let's get it all out. Say everything now. Let's just
David.
Say everything. Say everything now. Now.
I'll tell you in another life when we are both cats.
I can't believe you just said that. That is the greatest thing that I've ever heard. That's hilarious that you said that.
I do have to mention, I'd be remiss if I did not. The guy that right before that line happens, when Tom Cruise drunkenly walks up to Penelope Cruz and she's talking to someone else, the guy that she's talking to or dancing with or something like that is none other than William Mapother, as everybody knows, played Ethan Raume on Lost. So I had to point that out. But it turns out, Zach, which I never knew until this, he's actually Tom Cruise's cousin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I never knew that. Apparently he's in some Mission Impossible movies, and so they're related, and so I never knew that. So good on you, nightclub scene. You taught me something. Not about this movie, folks, but just in general.
The more you know, folks. Somewhere Rob's going to win bar trivia thanks to Vanilla Sky. Who is Tom Cruise's cousin that starred in Lost and a bunch of the Mission Impossible movies?
Yeah, you're right, though. I think, if we removed that, and one, that would trim down the movie a little bit, and then two, we could keep the same idea of, his life is going in a downward spiral, and it suddenly picks back up into this great kind of thing. more of that instance where we can get, okay, his lucid dream starts, things are going okay, but then the glitch happens with the people switching places and stuff. With that whole nightclub scene, you're kind of like, this just seems like a roller coaster ride almost.
Well, that's the thing, though. It's like, I think the whole, like, when you boil that scene down to its essence, is that it's supposed to show that he's like his insecurities are suffocating her, and she's such a free spirit based on the fact that, again, we can't argue too that, like, you look at her apartment, everything's just kind of a mess. And she said, and what's the line she says? Like, oh, I have to like work 50 hours a week to maintain this place, to maintain just even be able to live here. So I don't have time to really focus on anything else.
She's a she's a dental assistant by day and a dancer by night.
Yeah. And then you look at his apartment and like everything is so like in its place. Even he has the shattered guitar pieces and it's in a case. Again, the duality of it all. She has everything all over the place. He has something that's broken, deliberately contained. And again, a lot of neat imagery here. And again, the nightclub sequence, I don't think on a idea level that's bad. The whole point of that sequence is his insecurities is suffocating her, and she can't deal with that. But there's got to be a more coherent or intentionally ambiguous way to handle it than the way that's handled in the movie.
Exactly.
Because you have the weird thing with him and the bartender, then you have the weird thing with the dancing. And I get this movie's trying to be edgy. Like, you want like a bunch of like young people to see this. I would imagine probably the nightclub sequence was probably in a lot of the trailers. But I don't know though. I think that sequence maybe worked at the time at the detriment to the film's overall lasting power.
Yeah. I think in the alternate ending, I believe it's called, the stuff that's added is just at the end. It doesn't change anything prior to the LE stuff. But it would have been interesting to see a kind of more of a I don't know, refined? That might not be the best word, but that's what's coming to mind. Version of that stuff. Maybe a little more condensed to get to that ending, because the alternate ending really drags out the whole realization that this is not real life type of thing. Rather than just Noah Taylor going, hey, this is what's going on,
Yeah. This was also Cameron Crowe at the height of his power. Like, yes, Almost Famous just came out and it bombed, but he still was Cameron Crowe. He had all these actors in this film. So he probably figured I can do whatever I want.
Okay.
I think that was kind of the attitude with this. This was it's a vanity project of the highest order. Like, once you get Tom Cruise on board, especially during this time period, nobody's really telling you no.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because even looking at like his directing credits, because he did this, and then after it was Elizabethtown, which I'm pretty sure, I don't think Elizabethtown did well.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, it didn't do well. I
don't think I've ever heard of that.
it's Orlando Bloom and Kirsten Dunst. Okay.
Is it sci-fi-esque like this, or is it more of the Cameron Crowe I would expect, like the drama stuff?
I think it's more drama stuff. Because based on the poster, I've heard of Elizabethtown a lot, but I don't know what it's about.
I think the last Cameron Crowe movie I heard of was, didn't he do We Bought a Zoo with Matt Damon?
Goddamn right you are, Rob. Goddamn right.
The only reason I know about that movie is because the score was done by one of the Sigur Rós guys, and the Sigur Rós guy is in it. But I've never seen it. Okay. I just read about it. And don't worry, we're going to get to the Sigur Rós in this movie, Zach.
Oh, no. All right. Elizabethtown came out in 2005. It's listed as an American romantic tragic comedy. This is what it's about. It is an aspiring young shoe designer, Orlando Bloom, gets fired from his high-profile job after the failure of his latest project. To make matters worse, his girlfriend, Jessica Biel, leaves him, and he becomes suicidal. Drew's morbid plans are interrupted by the news of his father's death, and he is called back to his Kentucky hometown. On his flight home, he meets the lovely Kirsten Dunst, a sunny flight attendant who tries to help him embrace life once again. Cost $45 million, grossed 52. So suffice to say, this was a bomb.
Okay. Yeah, I've never heard of that in my life, and it doesn't sound like something I'm going to check out.
I have heard of it before.
Okay.
Then after that bombed, he didn't direct another film, like an actual film, not like he did a couple documentaries. He did a Pearl Jam movie.
Ooh.
But the next one was We Bought a Zoo, and then it was Aloha, which is apparently so bad.
I've never heard of that either.
It's the Bradley Cooper Emma Stone movie where, oh God, I remember, okay, let me see if I can find a description online. Because I remember hearing, at the time when that was released, I remember it being, because everyone's like, oh, this is going to be Cameron Crowe's like return to form. He's got like two like A-list celebrities. How could he go wrong? He's like in his wheelhouse.
Yeah. I love that we don't even need to describe We Bought a Zoo, because the description is they buy a zoo.
Matt Damon and Scarlett Johansson buy a zoo.
Oh man.
Cue credits. We saved you 2 hours.
I didn't even know you could buy a zoo. I thought zoos were like publicly funded.
Who knows, Rob? We see you have enough money. All right. Aloha. While on assignment in Oahu, Hawaii, military contractor Bradley Cooper reconnects with his old flame, Rachel McAdams, now married to an Air Force recruit officer. He also spends time with Allison. Oh, yeah, this is why everybody hates this movie. Emma Stone plays like a native Hawaiian. No one can figure out how. Because obviously, like Emma Stone's like pale as a ghost, and how why that's why the critics hate that movie, is because they feel that was okay. Okay, apparently the dialogue's horrible, but now it's coming back to me now. That's why the critics dogpiled. It was because how dare you not cast a Hawaiian actress? That was the reason why.
What year was that? Aloha?
2015.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think it grossed like $26 million on like a $50 million budget. So yeah, so they got hit hard with that.
Yeah, don't whitewash Cameron Crowe. Come on, haven't you learned anything?
Have you learned anything from Gods of Egypt?
Yeah.
Wow, that came out May of 2015. Ramrock, could you imagine that double feature? Get to see Tomorrowland and Aloha.
Oh, jeez.
Now that's a double feature. See, folks, we picked the wrong Cameron Crowe film to be discussing this week.
Was that the last? Aloha was the last of his so far? Okay.
Yeah, he did a Roadies, which I think was a streaming service show, I think.
Okay, I haven't heard of that.
Bad Robot produced it. Yeah, it was on Showtime. I remember hearing about Roadies. Yeah, I remember that. Was not renewed for a second season. Go figure. And he did David Crosby, Remember My Name, and he's producing that as a documentary. But no, the last thing he's directed as a film was Aloha, and the last, I guess, actual production he directed was Roadies. Okay,
interesting.
So yeah, Cameron Crowe, he's in a bit of a bind right now. He really hasn't had a hit since this.
Yeah.
Well, We Bought a Zoo made some money. We Bought a Zoo is like $50 million budget, grossed 120. So that's
wow. I never would have guessed that. I remember seeing marketing for that movie and just being like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, I remember that. It's one of those ones you hear the title and you're like, what? Yeah, it's a what the hell.
Yeah.
The 120 worldwide, not domestic.
Oh.
No, that movie did not make money. $50 million? No, someone lost much. Yeah, he has not had a hit since Vanilla Sky.
So what we're saying is he has to come out with Chocolate Horizon or Butterscotch Vista, the sequel to Vanilla
Sky. Yes.
And it starts right where this movie ends, with Tom Cruise opening his eyes.
He opens his eyes, and it's a Tom Cruise mummy. That's what it is. Perfect.
Welcome to the dark universe, Tom Cruise.
Oh man, Rob, you know about the dark universe?
Just from us talking about it, I think.
I thought it was just legend.
I think now it's legend, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. I forget somebody online had a T-shirt of that made. And every once in a while it shows up online. I might start laughing. The idea of having a dark universe T-shirt. We'll never get that Johnny Depp Invisible Man movie. Can you imagine that, Rob? Imagine Johnny Depp as the Invisible Man from Amazon Women on the Moon.
Ed Begley Jr. running around naked, knocking stuff over.
Yes.
Now that would be something to see.
That's $200 million opening weekend there, folks. Naked Johnny Depp, invisible, just running around yelling at people.
I don't know. I feel like if we could film Johnny Depp candidly in his home, wouldn't we get something similar to that? Allegedly.
We paid Johnny Depp $50 million just to CGI him out of the movie to say he's invisible, walking around. We see a cup of coffee. We see a bottle of gin like being picked up, and it's like, aha, is it Johnny Depp? We don't know.
Perfect.
But we should make Hollow Man 2 or 3, and we say Johnny Depp is starring, but we don't have to hire him. We just pay to say he's in the movie. Yeah,
if we get a face cast, like a face mold, like Kevin Bacon had that weird wax head thing. That'll do. Put it on anybody. It'll work.
Exactly. That's what we're gonna have to do. That's the Cinemoddities, another one of our films. We need to hit up Mark Cuban. We're making Hollow Man 3 or The Invisible Man 12. starring Johnny Depp, but he's gonna have no involvement with the production whatsoever.
Perfect. That's the
It's
best
somebody.
way.
It's somebody. We got our life cast from like a Jack Sparrow mask from like 15 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. Oh God.
All right, Rob. So I really, outside maybe highlighting a couple of things here and there, I really have nothing else to say about this movie.
So I did want two questions for. I did want to highlight some stuff for sure, and I think we'll get there definitely. But I did want to ask you two things. One, did you watch the alternate ending? Not saying did you watch the whole movie with the alternate ending, but did you go and look up those scenes or anything like that?
I wanted to, but I did not get to it.
Okay. I think the things that stood out to me, because I watched it once. I watched this movie twice. Once the full cut, or the theatrical, I guess, and once with the alternate ending that like someone spliced together. I don't think it was the actual rip from the Blu-ray, but the alternate ending adds a scene. It adds to the Good Vibrations scene, and I thought it was really interesting because Good Vibrations starts to play, and Tom Cruise is like, I can hear it. I can hear Good Vibrations, and Kurt Russell tries to convince him that there is no music, and it's a really neat scene. I also really liked I think it was just in the alternate ending, Tom Cruise like runs down to the bottom of the life extension building, and he gets the gun because he's running from Michael Shannon, who's the guard. Well, I guess we should also say young Michael Shannon was very great to see in this movie. But he's running from the guard, and he gets down to the bottom floor, and there's a quick shot where Michael Shannon gets off the elevator as he's chasing Tom Cruise, and he pulls out his gun, and he says something like, "I've been waiting to shoot this guy since he came into the prison."
Back off! I got a gun! Back off! I think I'm gonna kill somebody! Tech support!
I've been dying to do this since we first met.
And that was good. But the other thing that stood out to me was in that ending montage in both versions, when Tom Cruise jumps from the roof and he's screaming, "I want to wake up," and we get the Sigur Rós music, and we get all those flashes of just random things. There is a flash in there of like a boy's face, like a little boy holding a red balloon, and that does not appear in the theatrical cut. That kid with the red balloon is someone who's like held hostage by Tom Cruise when he gets a gun in the alternate ending version. Oh. And I thought that was pretty interesting because Tom Cruise gets a gun and he's like, "I can shoot whoever I want. This isn't real life. Nothing matters." And there's like a woman with her kid, and it's the kid with the red balloon, and the woman's cowering in fear, and she's holding the kid in the corner, like out of the line of fire, and the kid is just blank staring like right at Tom Cruise, like he has no emotion. And that's where that little shot comes from when Tom Cruise is falling off the roof. And I thought that was really neat. I thought that was like, oh wow, that added a little bit where Tom Cruise is going through all these flashes, and something he sees as he's falling is that, emotionless face of this kid when presented with danger. And I thought that was pretty interesting.
How about that? Yeah, because I wanted to watch the alternate ending. I checked my DVD, and like you said, it told me on the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
I can just say I do. I mentioned it earlier. I had the DVD. I was thinking about like getting the Blu-ray, and I saw like the picture quality isn't that great, and the only like additional bonus feature is the ending. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, nah, I like this movie, but I don't like it that much.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna hang on to the FYE DVD for the foreseeable future.
Perfect. Oh yeah, keep that receipt. I hope it's like in the case too.
Oh, it is. Oh, it is. Let's see what's going on. Let's see. The cashier was Elena. I wonder if she still works there. I forgot. FYE's out of business. No, she does not work there anymore.
I hope she got a good severance package.
Yeah, she got one copy of Vanilla Sky. That was her severance package. It cost me $4.99, and I purchased this on December 2nd, 2010. I gotta see what day of the year that was. Let's see, 2000. Oh my God, Rob! I just kept thinking, oh my God, Rob! I have to keep clicking and clicking on the computer. December 2nd was a Thursday at 10. Why was it FYE on it Thursday at 10:30 in the morning? How? What? I'm so confused right now.
That's good.
December 2nd, 2010 was a Thursday, and it says 10:35. Why was I there at 10:30 in the morning? This wasn't even like back when I used to go to the gym at the mall, where it would make sense for me to be there that time of the morning.
Yeah.
Twilight Eclipse on DVD and Blu-ray this Saturday, December 4th.
Perfect.
Unopened merchandise may be returned or exchanged within 30 days of purchase with the original receipt.
Uh-oh. I think you missed that one.
2-year replacement plan. I think I missed that too.
Yeah.
I should go back with the receipt. But hi, I'd like to return this.
Yeah. Is FYE on Twitter?
Oh, I don't think I've ever said this before. Weird. Okay, it has to come up now that it's an FYE. Quick Zack story tangent. When I was in college, we went to like a marketing agency in Albany, like on like a quasi field trip. And the person I spoke, one of the people that was there, the company, they ran the Twitter account for FYE.
Ooh.
And I'm like, oh. And they're like, and this woman, again, she had to be like in her late 20s, maybe early 30s. She's like, yeah, like when we post things online, we try. This is what, 2013.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess streaming was still just kind of people stream stuff, but it was still picking up. It's nowhere near as ubiquitous as it is now.
Sure.
And she's like, did you know like you can go to like FYE and get like the entire like series of like House for like $40? Like I got like all 8 seasons for like $40 and $5 a piece.
I was about to say $5 a season. Yep.
Yeah. And I'm like, I tried telling her, I'm like, yeah, it's a great way to pitch things to people. And I'm like, and it just went over her head. I mean, like, she's just like, woo! Like, she had like no idea. She's like, I kept trying to, you know what it was? That she didn't say that. I said that to her. I'm like, yeah, you can get like all these shows like really cheap and you don't have to worry about losing them. And she just kind of gave me this blank stare. And I'm like, well, you don't understand your job. Yeah. It wasn't her who said that. It was me who said that to her.
Oh wow. That's just seems like if your business is going out, like, aren't you trying to advertise that stuff? You know, I remember when Circuit City was going out of business on Route 9 up by the mall. We always talk about that whole side of the damn building had a going out of business sign on it.
Yep. Yeah, I guess I should say that this was back in 2013. If you wonder why there's no more FYEs, this was their marketing 6 years ago. So
they could have advertised the House box set for $40, but they continued to advertise 7-track CDs for $28.
It's weird, like, because every once in a while, I'll like when it comes to like my action figure collecting, I'll see stuff. People like go in there because they sell action figure stuff.
Yeah,
and it's like Marvel figure, like $19.99 at Target, at FYE $32.99, and it's like I get it, like you need to make money, but this isn't the way to do it.
Not at all.
Yeah, the FYE. Did I ever tell you the story about the woman? This is my freshman year of college. It has to do with Twin Peaks. There was a woman who worked there. And this is before, like, unlike Rob, as I've said numerous times, I wasn't torrenting out of the womb. So, like, I'd always find things at FYE that I wanted, but also if they asked them if they ever had things in stock. Yeah. And there was a woman who worked there freshman year. And she had to be a college student. She just looked like a college student. She had to be at least 6 foot tall.
Sure. And
I remember asking her, like, I used to ask her if they had things in stock, and she was one of those ones that always told me immediately no.
Oh, okay.
She was one of those. But like, yeah. As for my receipt, I always went in there like at times when they were never busy. So it wasn't like I was ever holding up a line or keeping her from her duties. Like anytime I'd ask for something, she'd always like tell me no. And I remember once I found the soundtrack to the original Twin Peaks there, and I bought it. Nice. And it's the only time she ever treated me like a human being. She's like, oh my God. She's like, this is an excellent choice. She's like, how much David Lynch do you watch? I'm like, yeah, I know a thing or two. She's like, oh, I've read the stories about like Fire Walk with Me, that it was booed at Con. And like, it was the only time she ever talked to me. And I was in there a lot. I have so many DVDs from like the first couple years of there from college. But it was I think she must have been a college student because she disappeared after freshman year.
Sure.
But yeah, FYE, man, I spent a lot of time in that store. When we eventually get to the Inland Empire episode, there'll be an entire discussion about that store and how they always had the things I wanted when somebody else was looking for them, and I can never get them. But
okay,
we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Sure. Oh, good old FYE. Yep, where I found the thumb movies.
See, folks, it's the bane of Cinemoddities' existence.
Absolutely. All right. So, other than the alternate ending, there was one other question I had for you, Zach. This probably would have fit better at the beginning of this discussion, but I'm glad we talked about this movie. Last week, you said something about this movie, and you also texted it to me. You said I was going to hate this movie.
Clearly shocked.
Clearly, I did not. I wouldn't say I loved this movie. I was totally intrigued and enthralled by it. I definitely, once we get to our questions, that'll reflect. But I wanted to ask you, Zach, the first time I watched this and enjoyed it, I was like, was Zack doing like a reverse psychology thing on me here? Or did you really think I was going to hate it?
Oh, no, I thought you were going to hate it, especially after the Tomorrowland discussion. Oh, 110%. Rob, we started off before we recorded, me being like, Rob, are you going to be okay next week when we talk about Charlie's Angels Full Throttle?
That's true. That's right. Yes. Yeah. Tomorrowland. That's a no. That's what was my answer to the late night? No more watch, please, or something like that.
Bad touch.
So yeah, bad touch. No, so good. I'm glad I like this. I didn't know if you were doing a reverse psychology. If you were, it worked.
I'm glad. I am glad.
Perfect. All right. Well, then I think the last thing I wanted to do was some highlights, some specific stuff that stood out to us. I think one of them I have to mention because it just infuriated me. It's the first scene where Tom Cruise goes back to Penelope Cruz's apartment. And they're talking and, they're doing their little kind of back and forth, flirtatious type of stuff. And she's talking about how her apartment is a mess. And like we said before, she has to work all around the clock to keep it. And she's talking and she's moving around her apartment and she's like slowly kind of spinning around. Like you said, what did you say? Pixie before?
Was that very pixie-esque, yeah.
Yeah. And she's very light on her feet. It makes sense. She's a dancer. And we're watching her whole body move, and she's talking, and then there's an incredibly hard cut to just her feet picking up something and putting it in a hamper. And this cut is so hard, it gave me whiplash, and it angered me. I'm just like, could she not do this in real life? Did they need like a body double to have her pick something up with her feet? Did this stand out to you at all?
I don't even remember that.
Okay, I'll the first time I watched it and the second time, it's a hard cut to just her feet picking up a piece of clothing with her foot, putting it in a hamper, and her foot going back down. And I'm like, why? I'm like, why was there an edit for this? Could Penelope Cruz not flex her toes? It was so strange to me. I don't have a timestamp or anything, but that stood out to me hardcore. I'm like, what went wrong in this scene that they felt they needed such a hard edit?
Yeah, that's weird.
I think we have to talk about Cameron Diaz's monologue a little bit more, right?
Oh, absolutely.
100%. Because once Tom Cruise leaves Penelope Cruz's apartment. Penelope Cruz does the happy dance as we described. As Tom Cruise is getting into his car, Cameron Diaz pulls up because she's the stalker, and they have a little back and forth, and eventually Tom Cruise decides to get in the car with her. And she goes off on the, our bodies made a promise to each other. And I think I know the answer, but just like at the end of last week's episode, you said that Vanilla Sky has one of the greatest lines of dialogue ever. It's the "I swallowed your cum" line, right? That's the one you're referring to.
Do you need to ask, Rob?
Exactly. That's why I prefaced it with that. This threw me for such a loop at the 40-minute mark of this movie. Like I said, it turned everything around. And you're 100% right. It comes out of nowhere. She looks at Tom Cruise and she goes, "I swallowed your cum. That means something." And I'm like, whoa.
You fucked me 4 times the other night, David. You've been inside me.
Julie.
I swallowed your cum. That means something.
I'm like, this is getting intense now.
That is such a, it's one of those lines of dialogue. Like, if that came out, we've talked about in the past, like, why certain things resonate, especially in today's culture. That's something, if that happened nowadays, if this happened like in the equivalent of a movie that came out in 2019 of the same sort of just like prominence, like, I don't know, let's like right now, like Cats. If there's a line of dialogue in Cats where one of the cats is like, "I swallowed your cum," that means something. Like, that's all everybody would be talking about, being like, this movie's horrible. Oh, yeah. But you got to check out this one scene.
Absolutely. Yeah. When it kind of hit me just out of nowhere, it made me think of, this belongs in something like a Men, Women, and Children. Like we talked about all the girls talk about the raunchiest thing ever. Like I could totally imagine the cheerleader, Judy Greer's daughter, being like, "And I swallowed his cum. Doesn't that mean something?" And it's just like, that's what we expect not from this weird like love story / sci-fi thing.
Yeah, that's like, the weird thing though is that, like, was that, I remember, okay, going back to Chappelle's show, when he was talking about like Lil Jon and like skeet, 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 and being like, you can't say skeet on the radio. Like when white people find out what this means, they're gonna be like, oh God, what have we done? Like, is that a word that like mass audiences would have known in 2001? Like nowadays, like, yeah, I get it. Like nothing's taboo anymore, especially things of a sexual nature. But like in 2001, like it's funny in the Blank Check episode, they were talking about this. Like the producer of the show, they were asking him when he saw this, and he's like, "Oh, I saw it at the drive-in with like my girlfriend at the time." And one of the people on the call was like, "Can you say the word "come" at a drive-through?" Like that like that's like one of the, I think, you know, most drive-throughs don't play like dirty movies or anything like really explicit. And that's one of those words that would have been like, did they go through the print and just cut that out?
That's a good question.
That's what I mean. It's like one of those movies that, like, I'm not saying like that word's been around for a while, but it's like, how used was that word? Like, is commonplace.
Yeah, I really don't know. That's a good point. I never thought of it that way, for sure.
It's a I would imagine it probably was a lot less jarring then, because most people were like, "What? What does that mean?" Like, I like to imagine just like grandma and grandpa are like in the theater, like, "Oh, we want to go see the new Tom Cruise movie. It looks so good." And they see that and they're like, "What? Your body makes a promise when you swallow what? You got to have sex 4 times. I haven't had sex 4 times in my entire 50-year-old marriage."
Oh God. Oh, that's too good.
Okay, I have a question for Rob about this, about the having sex 4 times in one night. Okay, I there's so many logistical questions. And I honestly think there's not another like great enough person on the face of this earth I could be asking these sort of questions to. But before I get into that, I'm looking. FYE is still in business, by the way. I'm kind of shocked by this.
Oh wow.
Yes, they have a website. You can buy.
Do they have their last store is in Alaska next to that Blockbuster?
No, actually, I typed in the zip code of where I went to college. In the store, they changed locations in the mall, but they still have a location in the Albany Mall. They actually have like 3 or 4 locations, like in like the capital region of New York. Like, go figure. Oh my God,
there's one in Cheyenne, Wyoming, like half an hour from me, apparently.
There you go, Rob.
Hot damn.
You can buy a copy of The Last Jedi for $26.99, the low price of. But no, but when I went to the store locator, I'm shocked to see that Sam Goody is still around as a brand. I know we've talked about this in the past, but Sam Goody is...
Sorry, I have to just say I clicked on the FYE website, and the first thing it is advertising to me is The Office. So I'm closing that website.
I think I got Star Wars, so somebody knows something on the FYE website. That same woman who's in charge of marketing. She's like, "Aha, I got you now, asshole." But no, Sam Goody apparently is still around as a brand, but kind of like what Rob said, only in Oregon and Ohio.
Okay.
They used to be everywhere. Now they're in 2 locations.
Man.
And apparently Suncoast Movies is still around, but only in, oddly enough, Texas, New Jersey, Nebraska, and Oregon.
Oregon seems like the place to be for dying businesses.
Yeah, if you have brands that nobody remembers that were popular 30 years ago, head to Oregon. You're going to have a blast from the past.
Yeah, geez.
But I want it on record that when you type your zip code in, you can filter your stores by 3 different criteria.
Okay.
Free Wi-Fi, selling used music and movies.
Okay.
And this one I'm the most curious about, and I think hopefully Rob will have an answer. You can mix and burn.
Really?
That's what it says.
So I haven't heard of that at a store, but I'm imagining it's like you would pick tracks and they would like burn a CD or something for you.
That's the only thing I can assume. It's like you create your own mixtape, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. That's okay. Yeah. Personalized, custom mixtape CDs.
But I have to ask,
what?
In December of 2019. A, who is using CDs? And B, who is going to a store to buy a mixtape CD?
Exactly.
Like, if I were to go to an FYE and be like, "Okay, I want to do this," would they be like, "Sir, we lost those CDs years ago"?
If you go in, you have to say to the person, say, I want to do a custom mixtape. They're going to go, "Okay, come back in 15 minutes. And you're going to go, I didn't tell you any tracks or anything yet. And they go, no, I have to run down to Staples to buy some blank CDs first.
All right, sir, you want a mixtape CD? Yes, I do, please. All right, I want you to go back to your car, go to 88 miles per hour, and maybe go back to a date where this is still relevant.
Yeah, so I fye.playanywhere.com.
Yep.
You can build this. You get 75 minutes.
Wow.
It's the first track is $3.99 plus $1.29 for all the other tracks, it looks like.
That's insane.
Okay,
this is insane.
I'm committing a cardinal sin. I'm going to search a song to see if I can get it on this CD. I searched Baby Shark and nothing came up. Oh, no, I found it. It went to artist first. I found it. Okay, Zach, you are getting a 75-minute CD of nothing but Baby Shark in the mail for Christmas.
All right, I want on record that I typed 18s in, and it's not doing anything.
Got a
search results, 18s. There were no search results.
Oh, there were no results for your search when I typed in Huckapoo. That's a bummer.
When I type in 18s with a dash for artists, I get Pro Teens, Nashville Teens, 16s, the East Nashville Teens, not to get them confused with the Nashville Teens.
Oh my God.
What the hell is happening, Rob? What the hell is happening?
No results for An Insperiority Complex. Screw you, FYE. Hey, when we were sending our music to the aggregator, there was no FYE box. I should get on that. We should complain.
Okay, Rob, what is the typical runtime of an average song?
I'd say 4 minutes.
4 minutes, right?
3.5 to 4. Yeah, somewhere in there.
All right, so our first track is $4.
Mm-hmm.
So you have 75 minus 4, then 71 divided by $1.29. So this CD is going to cost a lot of money.
So what is this like if you don't know what iTunes is?
This is for if you don't know what a CD burner is. If you just woke...
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like anything, like just having a disk drive would count as this.
All right, I'm going to announce the formal partnership between Vanilla Sky and FYE. If you two were locked in cryogenic freeze for 20 years and woke up and you want to still use CDs, but prior to this, you have no idea what a CD burner is, I'd like to introduce you to FYE's Mix and Burn.
Hot damn. Oh my God. You can also choose the artwork. You could choose. So I clicked on the get started button at the top. And the first is you choose your tunes, then you choose the art, then you choose a recipient.
That's insane.
This is, I don't know what just like we started this episode, we have no idea what time it is. We're in a time vortex. This is just more evidence that we legitimately are in a time vortex.
I like the idea that based on the math, and an average song being 4 minutes, and on the price rates, it would cost you $27 to get a CD.
That sounds right for FYE.
But you could literally buy 2 bundles of 50 CDs for less than that.
Absolutely.
You could honestly make 100 mixtapes for the price of one and have any choice in music you want.
Oh my, this is crazy.
If we ordered a CD from this, would they just be like not even in store? I mean, if we bought one from the website, it'd be like, are you for real? You don't even get an order confirmation. You get seriously?
We get a phone call and they'd be like, is this a prank?
I wonder if there's a number you can call. Just keep pranking them. I think Rob said this. Ask her how many baby sharks. I want all the baby sharks. I want 100 sharks with just baby shark.
Oh my God. This is insane. How did we get here from swallowing cum?
This is how you know
we went from FYE to cum to FYE again. What's going on?
If you want to show somebody you really care about them, there's one or two ways to do it. You swallow their cum or you make them an FYE mixtape CD.
I bought you an FYE mix and burn. That means something.
We made 4 mixtape CDs together.
Oh, jeez.
Your body makes a promise when you make a mixtape CD.
This
All
is
right.
insane.
This is... Oh man, the rabbit's hole on Cinemoddities, folks. It's fun. You know what, folks? Much like what we did for Knights of Vader on December Plus, we're gonna have the opposite for Cinemoddities. Every week in this series is gonna be prefaced with Rob telling you to go to FYE, get a mix. Don't even buy the mixtape CD. Just go to your local FYE and tell them you want a mixtape CD. If they actually start to do it, just laugh and run away.
Yeah, cancel the order at the last moment.
Oh my god!
Oh, I found somewhere where we can enter our email address for discounts and news.
Ooh! Oh man, Rob, they don't have 18s, but they have Juliet by LMNT, my favorite song of all time.
Okay. So I'll get as many Baby Sharks on there as I can, and then one of the tracks will randomly be that one.
Oh my god, this is bonkers. We gotta pick some of the most obscure music. Maybe they have Crispin Glover. Glover CD.
Clowny clown.
Oh, they actually have it.
Oh my.
They actually have it.
Oh my. They do. The big problem. Question the solution.
Okay.
The solution equals let it be. This is amazing.
Okay, I want on the record. Okay, we're going really back into the time machine, folks. That when Rob and I were in high school 10 years ago, I had to buy the CD off eBay because the music wasn't available anywhere.
Yep.
Yet 10 years later, it's available on the goddamn FYE Play Anywhere website. You sold out, Crispin Glover. You sold out.
Oh, I'm hearing it. I'm doing the 30-second preview of Clowny Clown right now.
Ruben
I gave him some soup.
But he got sick.
Oh, this is
and asked for its purse.
I gave him some soup, but he got worse. It asked for its purse. It got it, but it was empty, so it cried aplenty. I wondered what to do. I didn't know what to think, so I got a drink. And then I showed it something that was round. Then it died, smiled, fell on the ground.
Jeez. I guess this is a good transition into next week. Isn't Crispin Glover in our movie next week?
Yes.
Perfect.
And possibly the greatest cameo. Actually, it's not a cameo. It's just candid footage that they interspliced into the movie. Nope.
Oh, okay.
Crispin Glover died in real life after that movie, folks. They don't want to say it, but it's a very similar thing that happened to Paul McCartney. Crispin's dead. All right. Getting back to Butterscotch Horizon. Chocolate Horizon, whoever it was, Butterscotch Vista. All right.
Toffee Panorama.
There you go. All right. In the movie, Cameron Diaz makes a very big point of saying they had sex 4 times one night.
Yes.
So my question is, to have sex 4 times one night, because prior to this, I thought the record for most amount of sexual encounters was 3 times from Chappelle's show during greatest moments in hookup history.
Yeah.
So my question is, what constitutes a sex session? And 2, how long does a sex session have to last to count as a time? So my question is, like, I would imagine it's Tom Cruise, it's Cameron Diaz, they're a virile couple.
Mm-hmm. I
would imagine the average sex session. Yes, they have a sex session during their sex session. But I would imagine it has to last. It has to be satisfying to Cameron Diaz, the fact that she's rejecting Jason Lee, and he's quite a handsome man himself when he's not with a bunch of chipmunks.
Sure.
So, she says 4 times one night. What constitutes night? Are we talking about like during the winter where it gets dark at like 3 p.m.? Are we talking about a summer night where it's like 11 p.m. to like 4 a.m.? So, like, my question is, where's the bar, Rob? Where's the line in the sand for a sex session for Cameron Diaz in this movie?
That's a good question. That's a tough question to answer. Because spoiler alert, if you've been listening to this podcast and did not know, Zack and I are both men. So it's kind of like, what does an orgasm constitute a sex session? Because you can have, to my knowledge, women can have multiple orgasms before a man has an orgasm.
Sure.
But I feel like if we say it, the male orgasm is the end of one sex session, please. The end of one sex session. That, probably, I don't know, that seems a little sexist, I guess, or we would get called out for that. So I'm not sure. The night thing you bring up, though, is a good point, Because, yeah, is it from when like sunset to sunrise? Because then that's a lot of time for four sexual experiences, and especially if you're going for it, like Tom Cruise can take a Viagra or something, regardless of if he needs it or not, and just keep going.
Rob, that might be you know what, Rob, we might get sued for that. Tom Cruise does not need any performance enhancing drugs. Come on. That's the most. Come on, Rob. You know what, lawyers? He didn't mean that. He meant allegedly. I heard allegedly in there. I'm not sure if anybody else heard it, but the audio cut out that exact moment.
So the other perfect cuts out. Perfect. The other thing I think is, what about the one sex session? The end is demarcated by both of them sharing a cigarette. So it's like they have, regardless of orgasms, like, you know, maybe there's some penetration, but then they're like, let's stop, let's have a cigarette. That's one sex session, and then they go back. So I don't know. It seems like this Cameron Crowe. Can we tweet at him?
Yeah, I get to ask Cameron Crowe, because my other question is too, is that she says, "I swallowed your cum," like, as we've learned from the Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky thing, oral sex is not sex. So does that count? So is there possibly a mystery orgasm in here? Maybe it was 5 times. They were not even aware of it.
A mystery orgasm.
Come on, like
last week we had Scott E's comment, and I said if we ever subtitled our episodes, we would use that Rob contends with the Uncanny Valley one for Dark Crystal. I think that this should be Vanilla Sky : the case of the mystery orgasm.
But it's true though. Like, I'm not sure about people in our audience though, but like 4 times sex one night. Like, you need a lot of orange juice, man. Like that's not just something that happens spontaneously. Like, that's a goal. Like, you got to work. Like, by the 4th time, you're working toward that. Like, I think there's an episode of 2.5 Men where, I forget, whatever happened with Charlie Sheen, like, he's trying to make amends with all of his ex-girlfriends. Sure. And however that is, he has to have sex with all of them. Or they all invite him in for sex. And at the very end, he's like, I don't know, by the last one, I just faked it and walked out. And that's my question about, like, by the 4th time, like, you have to be making a conscious effort. It's not like the 4th time having sex in one night, it's no longer spontaneous.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a definitive decision on both parties' behalf. Like, it's like, okay, we're going for this. Like, at this point, there's no more passion here. We're doing it just to kind of check it off our bucket list.
Yeah, I'm also thinking maybe it was like a like just a kind of spur of the moment thing, in the sense where, you know, they both had sex, they go to sleep. One of them wakes up, initiates sex again, they go to sleep. One of them wakes up, initiates sex again, they go to sleep. And it just so happened that it was 4 times in one night, you know? Like, they were all just like eternally horny that night. Who knows?
I don't know. It's kind of like, maybe he put the Viagra up his butt instead of eating it, something like that.
He was snorting it. Crushing it up. He's like, hold on, Cameron Diaz, hold on. let me get my mortar and pestle out.
That's what I mean. Okay, maybe it look much like the math we did for the FYE mix and match CD. Like, what's the average length of a sex session? Like, maybe it's not even possible to do this. Maybe this is one of those things where it's mathematically impossible to do it 4 times in one night. Like, she seems pretty, like, this thing that he, like, when they had sex that night, was that the aftermath we see at the beginning of the film, or was this something entirely different?
That's a good question. Yeah. Was it like an earlier thing where it was like, we had sex 4 times that one night once, and it's never occurred again, but that was like the peak of our sexual activity.
Exactly. Tom Cruise was kind of like a dehydrated husk. If you ever seen, like, what was it, Scary Movie, where the guy, like, blows his wad and we literally see himself drained. Maybe that's what Tom Cruise was. Maybe that's what killed him. Maybe the car thing is just a metaphor. Maybe he literally died of just, like, being, like, devoid of bodily fluids.
Oh, man. Oh, geez. This is what should have been in the alternate ending.
It's just Penelope Cruz and Jason Lee at, like, a table at a coffee, like, house, being like, how is this possible? Like, after a while,
Kurt Russell's interviewing him, and he's like, this doesn't make sense, David. David, you can't have sex 4 times in one night. Show me your face, David.
After a while, it's just like Cameron Diaz is like, there wasn't enough. I was like, oh God, carpet burn after a while. I couldn't walk straight. Every time I walked that next day, it hurt.
Oh, jeez. Welcome to the new year of Cinemoddities, where we've talked about sex more on this episode than all of our previous 96, something like that.
Folks, come on. Like, you know, we have to do a poll for Cinemoddities. Like, pick our top 4 like favorite quotes from like whatever we've discussed, whether it be the Merman, I swallowed your cum. Like, what other great Cinemoddities quotes do we have that we've played like ad nauseum?
Oh, the Annihilation sound.
That's
not a quote. Yeah, I know.
That's not a quote.
In my mind. Yeah,
that's a sound effect.
No, that's a good question. Yeah, I think I've started digging some of those up for our 2-year anniversary. But yeah, you know, the ham, the Merman.
Of course, the ham.
Yeah. There's got to be some from way back in the beginning that we've forgotten about, right?
We have to go through the Cinemoddities canon and be like, what the hell? Like, come on, there's got to be some like truly like our best like moments on here.
Definitely. When you said we got to do a poll, I thought you were going to say we got to do a poll and ask people if you can have sex 4 times in one night.
Well, we can always ask that as well. Bonus points if you answer that question.
Yeah, we could do a poll and be like, does swallowing cum mean anything? Because that's got to be subjective, right? 'Cause in the scene, Tom Cruise is like, what is she talking about?
No, what you do, folks, if somebody ever asks you if they're driving like 80 miles per hour through like Midtown, being like, do you love me? You immediately tell them yes. Yes, I love you. I love you. Nothing says you. Nothing means I love you like screaming at somebody while you're in mortal danger.
Yeah, doesn't he say he's like, yes, fine, I love you. Now slow the car down or pull over.
Pretty much. Okay, some other Cinemoddities quotes. We have Halloween 3: Season of the Witch. Where do you want to sleep, Dr. Chalice?
Oh, of course.
That's a gem. We've got Terminator. Well, we didn't really discuss it on here, but we have to discuss it. We have is this your Terminator wife? Is this your Terminator baby? But that's not.
We got that clip in last week, but I think that was the first time ever the clip was in there on Cinemoddities.
Yeah, we have Ted Bundy's holy shit, look at that.
Of course.
I'm trying to think from like specific quotes.
Yeah.
Key and Peele, the Terrys, but that's not. We haven't really like abused that.
Sure, and yeah, that's really more of the whole atmosphere of that. Yep.
Sure. We have Vox Lux. Are you retarded or something?
Oh yeah, you get that look in your eyes where they just glaze over like the world's just happening to
you. Now that is a Cinemoddities quote.
Yeah, that's a fantastic insult. Yeah.
we need to use that more often. I guess Kung Pao maybe.
Oh yeah, maybe. If I think in that episode I say that's a lot of nuts a good bit of times. That always sticks out to me.
Sure.
From that movie.
I guess we have Thanksgiving.
Oh well, fuck, Billy. We go to the
library.
and the John Benet Ramsey joke from Thanksgiving as well.
Sure. I'm trying to think. Nothing from Goosebumps. I guess Trapped in the Closet. Maybe E major all day.
E major all day. Yep. Anything about Big Man? You know.
Big Man. Yep. I guess
package. The package.
The package.
He got the package from Trapped in the Closet.
The package. Oh God, what else was there? A Sicario. What was it? Sicario Dos. F it all.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm trying to think. Is there anything from the Jurassic World 2 Dinosaur Boogaloo?
I don't think so. I think the only there was that quote from the dinosaur doctor where it was like, I'm a dinosaur doctor. No, I've never seen a dinosaur. That one, I think we made fun of that a good bit.
Sure. Claws. Oh, honey, I'll give you my asshole.
and some fried peanut butter sandwiches.
Yes, but we haven't really abused a lot of these. So like Merman's kind of the biggest one I can think of.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like again, there's quotes from movies like Men, Women, and Children, like we've said before. Like if I could find the hole.
Yep.
Yeah, but really,
how do you like your eggs?
how do you like your eggs? But really, the best ones you're right you can think of is the Annihilation sound. This ham was delicious. Merman, and I swallowed your cum. That's kind of the cinema. Those are kind of like we've had those like the letters brass hung on the wall when you walk in, like all of our inspirational quotes when you walk into the restaurant. That's what it is right now. We have this ham is delicious, which I don't think we offered. Do we offer ham on the menu?
I don't remember. But this whole discussion is now making me think of our first year anniversary episode where I did your performance review, which was made up of quotes. I'm remembering we had from Total Recall 2 weeks.
Yes, 2 weeks.
I don't really remember much of my performance review for you though. Other than that,
right.
I know Merman got in there for sure.
So the 4 quotes we have right now is I had no idea he was a merman. This ham is delicious. The annihilation down, which I'm not. How do we type that? How do we type out want?
Every one of our fans just has to know what that is. It's in their heads. It's like we said. It's that Pavlovian training performed for them.
But if we have it on, like, how do we have that at the restaurant though? Like, as a mural? Is it just constantly playing it, or we need people? It just says annihilation. It just says annihilation sound, and the restaurateurs hear it.
Yeah, like in brackets or something, like a subtitle. You know, when it says like scary music plays, it's like annihilation sound.
Yes, and people automatically hear it. Okay, good. And then last but not least, I swallowed your cum.
That means something.
You fucked me 4 times the other night, David. You've been inside me.
Julie.
I swallowed your cum. That means something.
Imagine how Rob said, like, what was it after the post-coitus viewing of Fantastic Planet?
Yeah.
We can't. Okay, folks, we're not, for legal reasons, we can't ask you to do this. Don't do this. Please don't do it, though. But somebody needs to try that. Be like, if somebody's ever breaking up with you, be like, I swallowed your cum. That means something. Like, has that ever worked? Like, has anybody ever salvaged a breakup using that quote before? Like, I need to know.
I don't know where that line came from. That line has certainly never been uttered to me or by me. So who knows?
That's one of those things. Like, that's kind of one of those. There needs to be how much grant money do we need, Rob, to figure that out? If that's ever been used before. Earnestly, not like.
This is a pitch we have to figure out how to word correctly for Mark Cuban and Shark Tank.
We go in there. It's like, these next investors from Cinemoddities Incorporated need grant money for a survey. And you go in like, so what is it you want to do again? Well, there's this movie called Vanilla Sky. There's a line of dialogue said that we're really fascinated about. And
not for the bust our thesaurus out to write that grant proposal correctly. What sounds good? Like sexual anthropology? Does that sound appropriate? like we need a way to frame this so that it'll sound professional.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's great. It's great.
Jeez.
Oh my God, this movie, folks. That's just, the sad thing is that this movie's actually pretty good, but sadly it will always be remembered because of that one line of dialogue.
Yeah, it comes out of nowhere, hits you like a ton of bricks, and it switches the toe. It's like the rail switch for the movie. You're on completely different tracks after that's uttered. Much like the sexual fluid that Cameron Diaz ingested, that moment swallowed this entire movie. Yes, exactly. Oh my God, great. All right, Rob, we're gonna do snacks first because I want to get in here before Rob steals it from me. We're offering White Russians at the restaurant, but we're calling it I Swallowed Your Cum. Okay. That's it. Okay. That's my snack idea. I'm out. Okay, I like it. So you're saying that the name on the menu, like the menu words on the menu, would be "I swallowed your cum," like past tense. Yes, and it's a White Russian. There's nothing sexual. Nobody's doing anything. It's probably one of the very few things in the restaurant that doesn't have some sort of bodily fluid from the employees. But yes, we are offering that. Okay, I can get behind that for sure. That was the only one you had, you said? Yes, because I realized there's nothing I can do to top that. That's it. Sure. I'm out. Okay, so I actually had a tough time with snacks in this one as well, because there's not too much food. You know, like we mentioned before, there's the Jack and Coke, and sure, I think we have the bar with the untrained bartenders from Dragon Blade or something that Scott E. recommended, which is where we'll get our White Russians and Jack and Cokes and all that stuff. But, you know, while I even watched it the second time trying to think of snacks, nothing really came to mind. I do want to point out that at the beginning of the movie, when Tom Cruise pulls up for his board meeting, like outside of his magazine's building, there is like a dude with a food cart ready to go, like roadside service. That I definitely found interesting. And I was trying to tie that into there, but I don't want to do that for our customers, you know? The customers have to go into the restaurant to get the food, right? Oh, definitely. Yeah, so I toyed around with that, but I ended up throwing that away because that's something more for us. Like when we pull up for the board meetings at the Cinemoddities restaurant, then absolutely we better have that roadside service, some mini caviar glory hole ready to go for us type of thing.
That's a beautiful notion.
Yes. What I decided upon was I'm not sure if this would be a specific meal or some type of add-on to a meal, but I really like the idea of a customer can do something or request something that would result in them having to eat their meal while wearing the facial prosthesis mask. Like they have to eat through that stationary mask that Tom Cruise wears. And of course that would make it insanely difficult. But that's what I was trying to go for was, maybe, it's like, oh, I'll take the Goosebumps, haunted camera platter or dish, but I'd like to do the add-on of the Vanilla Sky. And the add-on of the Vanilla Sky is you have to wear this mask while you eat your food type of thing. Because one, I guess I didn't mention it before, I really do like the look of the mask on Tom Cruise's face when it's on his face and on the back of his head. I really think it looks like a neat visual. And so I was trying to get that in there where we'd have to, have a bunch of customers in our restaurant with this mask on their face. Because one, it's going to make it harder to eat. And then two, when Law and Order Cinemoddities starts, it's going to be even more difficult for identification purposes, just to add some suspense to those episodes. What do you think?
I think I have it figured out. What we do is we offer what's it called like in restaurants when you have like the highest tier? We offer a 5-star delicacy meal, like the best cut meats, best vegetables, all this for like $14.99. There's no tricks. There's nothing wrong with the food. It's not made out of like human flesh or rat meat or any of our other like sicko fantasies. But you have to wear the Tom Cruise mask while you're eating it, and you have to finish it all.
So it's like you're living the life of luxury, but you're hindered with this deformity. The deformity being the mask. Exactly.
Oh, so you get a fantastic meal at a great price, but you're in absolute misery while you're trying to eat it.
I like that. And you said you were making them finish it all?
Yes.
I like that idea. A restaurant making their customers like finish all their food.
And I want noted that you brought it up with the mask from Goosebumps. We forgot one of our greatest quotes. Carly
Beth, of course.
She's up there too.
Oh, Wonder Woman. It's been
Wonder
forever.
Woman.
It's all coming back to us, folks.
See? Yep. Carly Beth probably being, in all honesty, when it comes to most of our correspondence with our fans, Carly Beth is the biggest one. Like that is Carly Beth. Carly Beth.
Even between us, I text Zack every now and then, what the fuck, Carly Beth?
Danielle,
yes. I don't know if Zack has heard, but
I heard.
Okay,
I heard.
Yes, Danielle. We're always yelling at Danielle. That's the point I'm trying to make.
We forgot all about the women quotes. Danielle, Wonder Woman, Carly Beth.
Yeah. See, this is exactly why I said, we're men. We're talking about sex. We're gonna get in trouble.
We're in trouble already, folks. Hashtag Cinemoddities is canceled in the new decade.
Does all those come out? That whole phrase comes after the hashtag?
Yep, all those.
Perfect.
It's the whole tweet. Exactly, the entire tweet.
Oh yeah, so that was the only snack I had, and I think you nailed it on the head. We make it great food, like the truly great meal at the restaurant that everybody want, but we hinder the people from eating it. Perfect.
I dig it. All right, any other snack items? Can we move on to Cinemoddity and late night movie status?
I think I'm ready for Cinemoddity and late night, and I'm going to start off with Cinemoddities. I gave it an absolutely, and I even wrote down, I give it an absolutely, I think for all the reasons I said, but to boil down, I think exactly why I enjoyed this movie. This exists as a weird blend, a really weird blend of shit I hate and shit I love. Like the sappiness, the saccharine lovey-dovey, oh, I can't stand it. But then the weird sci-fi questioning, I was on a roller coaster trying to figure out what was going on in this movie, the incomprehensible part of this incomprehensible blockbuster. This weird baby's first David Lynch, this watered down Capgras imposter syndrome idea. Oh, it was so interesting to see. So this gets an absolutely on Cinemoddities, and probably for the same reasons. I said fuck yes to late night. I would totally want to show this to someone late at night because one, you're going to get the Cameron Diaz monologue, and that's going to get everybody talking. And then you're going to have some, I think, good conversation with, what the hell is going on here.
Late night movies, yes, for all the aforementioned reasons. I have a new ranking for Cinemoddities, or a new listing, I guess, a label. I'm going to, because I was thinking about this, because this kind of fell in the same kind of like area as Total Recall, where it's too big budget, it has too much star power. But then I realized this resonated with people. Not resonated, I'm sorry. People want to see this. And I'm like, why? I really can't figure out why this was successful, because yes, probably a lot of it was just probably the star power and just things like that.
Sure.
But like, this is a movie that should have died on word of mouth.
Yeah, it seems like it.
So I'm proposing a new label. An inverse cinemoddity.
Okay.
Because like, this is a movie that's made by a bunch of people who have a ton of clout and power. Again, it's Steven freaking Spielberg, Tom Cruise, all these other actors. It's directed by Cameron Crowe, who's at the height of his power right now.
Yep.
And they made, I don't want to say an incomprehensible film, but they made a film that really, really should have turned people off.
Yeah.
For a multitude of reasons. Yet it made money.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not an inverse cinemoddity, but an inexplicable one, because like everything here shouldn't work. There's so many like jarring pieces that, like, again, you have a date night couple go to see this and they should have been like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And like, you have grandma and grandpa that come out and go, what did she swallow? and that's like, and yet it still made money.
You fucked me 4 times the other night, David. You've been inside me.
Julie.
I swallowed your cum. That means something.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm not sure what to call it yet either, but I see what you're getting at. Absolutely. It's almost where I was coming at my Cinemoddity answer from, the how I felt about the exact content of the movie. There is this kind of maybe not cultural impact, but financial impact or human impact this had when it came out that is in and of itself odd. Yeah,
I don't know. This is kind of, I have no idea why people saw this movie.
Yeah,
I get. This is one. It's kind of like what happened to Elizabethtown and like other Cameron Crowe movies. Like, it makes money like opening weekend, and then it drops off because people are like, oh, this is not really good. And I don't mean all of Cameron Crowe's like catalog. I mean like his stuff like in the last 10, 20 years. Again, people should have saw this opening weekend, and the word of mouth should have been outright toxic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yet it wasn't. And I wonder, I have no idea what carried this film over the goal line. Was it the star power that just overpowered everything else? Maybe it was the fact that people didn't want to see Lord of the Rings or Ocean's 11. Like, think about it. Like, if you are, like, it's the holidays, you want to see a more conventional film. Like, in 2001, something like Lord of the Rings really was like a brand new type movie. There really wasn't this sort of like fantasy film on that sort of scale before. Yes, you had things like Ocean's 11, but that was also very jokey. It was very, again, what's the word? It was very youthful. Again, you had Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, George Clooney all doing their thing. And I don't know, like, this is such an experimental film. And it's weird. I can't think of another film that's this experimental, even though it is, again, baby's first David Lynch, that made $100 million. I can't think of another film that was this bizarre. And again, it's in the same camp as a Total Recall.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas at least with Total Recall, it's a very pulpy premise. Like, oh, Arnold Schwarzenegger goes to Mars and encounters a conspiracy with mutants.
Mm-hmm.
That I get. Like, that's the premise of the movie. You're either on board with it or you're not. Whereas, like, how do you, like, okay, Rob, let's imagine you're in 2001 and you want to see this movie at 9 years old for whatever reason. How do you explain this to somebody? Like, imagine having imagine you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a wife or a husband, and you're like, hey, I want to see this movie. Other than like, oh, it's the latest Tom Cruise movie. How could you explain this movie, like trying to convince someone to see it as a non-oddity? Like, how do you sell this as like a conventional film?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if you'd have to leave information out.
And then once you've, I don't want to say duped, but once you've gotten people into the theater, they watch it. How do you say you liked it? Like, again, like, how do you, okay, Rob, take Cinemoddities out of this equation.
Sure.
How would you recommend this movie to somebody like an aunt or uncle?
you'd have to know that they were like the weird aunt or uncle that was into this.
But that's the thing, though. Like, they're not the weird. How do you sell this movie to somebody that's not into weird movies?
Oh, then just tell them Tom Cruise is in it and hope that star power carries it. Like you're saying.
So that's the only way this movie. So
it seems like it, yeah.
By our own deduction, the only reason why this movie made money was because of Tom Cruise. But if that's the case, why didn't it crash and burn after opening weekend?
Yeah,
that's the inexplicable. That's why
exactly.
I'm not calling it. Forget that was a wrong word to use. I'm not calling it an inverse cinemoddity. It's an inexplicable cinemoddity.
Ah, perfect.
It is. It's an inexplicable cinemoddity. It's a cinemoddity. I can't figure out why.
Yeah, that it is. It is really baffling.
Paradoxical. It's an inexplicable, paradoxical cinemoddity.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
new ranking,
it's
folks.
A strange one for sure.
Yep. Good old. I swallowed your cum. It means something movie.
That's a lot of big words I got to put in the spreadsheet.
That's a lot of SAT words. I like to. You know what we should do, Rob? We should make a SAT question for Cinemoddities where it's like Vanilla Sky is to Goosebumps, as Jurassic World Dinosaur Boogaloo 2 is to. It has like 4 choices. It's like Vox Lux, Aristocats, Death Kiss,
and Ham.
Tomorrowland. Exactly. We should do that. Cinemoddities SAT prep.
Oh God, that's crazy. Oh, I love it.
Alrighty, Rob. So I would imagine you have a whole treasure trove of music to pull from for this episode as to what to play in reverse.
Oh, of course. But before we get to there, do we want to say what we're doing next week, Zach? Would you like to?
I think we said it. I think I mentioned it. What we were doing next week.
Okay.
We were talking about Crispin Glover. I think I threw that in there.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I said the story of when I saw it in Dropbox last week, so everybody should be able to put the pieces together. We're
talking next week about Charlie's Angels Full Throttle, but don't tell anybody.
Shh, it's a secret. Until Monday. Next Monday.
Until next Monday.
Yeah, so of course, how we can end this. One of the things that I loved in this movie was the music. Not just because it was a great soundtrack, I thought, what was composed for it, but also the music that they used. I mentioned the Radiohead at the start. That's always great. But they featured very prominently 3 Sigur Rós songs. And if you remember, it hasn't come up in a while, I think, but Jóhann Jóhannsson, when we talked about him with Mandy, Sigur Rós came up. They're both from Iceland. Sigur Rós is one of my favorite bands, and An Inspiriority Complex favorite bands. We get to hear not only Sveffen G. Engler, we get to hear Agatis Brunjin, and we get to hear Untitled 4 from the Parentheses album. No matter what anybody tells you, it is not the Nothing song. It is Untitled 4. Every song on that album is untitled. I don't care how many years after they went back and gave it titles. They're all untitled. So I'm thinking I would pick one of those songs and play it in reverse to not only end out this great incomprehensible blockbuster with a band that makes up their own language for the lyrics, but to also show off some great Sigur Rós. How does that sound?
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, I dig it. And tune in next week for Crispin Glover.